Welcome to the March to Madness, a daily rundown of the wonderful craziness that is the NCAA tournament, one of the most unique events in sports. From the powerhouses to the Cinderellas, the tournament has it all and will keep you up to speed on all of it. And now, the March to Madness.
And we're marching. All the conference tournaments are done, and we welcome you into the March to Madness, the Selection Sunday special here on the Vegas Stats and Information Network on Sirius XM 204, VSiN.com, and Fubo TV. We've got pages of notebooks, we've got computers, we've got algorithms, and we've got Kenny White.
And paper.
We got everything
and
here.
Paper.
Sam Panayotovich, Matt Youmans, Kenny White, and Bruce Marshall from the Gold Sheet. Guys, we're all set, and now the question remains, who are the 4 number 1 seeds? Youmans, on the last show, we had Mr. ACC Sean Cavanaugh saying 3 teams from the ACC will be on the one line.
Yeah, as much as I hate that, I can't really put up a big argument to that because I think Duke has to be there, Virginia has to be there. And, you look at Gonzaga and North Carolina as the other 2 teams that fill out the likely one line. You can make a pretty strong case, I think, for Michigan State, but that Big Ten title game ended so late that I have a feeling the committee is going to put 3 ACC teams on that top line.
Yeah, I think the one that could have moved today would have been Tennessee. Had Tennessee won in the SEC, I think the Vols would have bumped North Carolina off the top line. But I agree. I think you're going to probably get 3 from the ACC, and both Michigan and Michigan State are going to be on the 2 line, I think.
Kenny, you okay with that? 3 teams ACC? I mean, as far as your numbers go, as far as you rate them, I don't think there's much of an argument for anybody else, right? Tennessee loses by 20. Michigan State, okay, they've had some injuries and they've had some bad losses this year, namely to Illinois. That was an awful loss. But is that what you're probably shooting for?
My only question mark is the Zags. Don't know how good they are because we don't know who they really played. I mean, they played a couple teams early in the year, and they played well. I have them the number 2 team in the country. It was a bad loss against St. Mary's because people are going to hold that against them. But, boy, it's a team they play year in and year out, the 3rd time in the season, neutral court. Anything can happen. You have one off day shooting, and anything can happen to you. I think the Zags are really good. They're definitely a top 4 team.
One thing I have to say about the Zags, too, is I was in Maui for the Invitational in November, and they beat Duke when Duke was at full strength and Gonzaga was down Killy and Tilly. Zags also lost to Tennessee without Tilly. They played at North Carolina without Tilly, so they were shorthanded. Nobody really talks about that too much. It's always making excuses for other teams missing players. I think Gonzaga has a great case for the top line.
Yeah, and Crandall was out too early in the season.
Crandall also, yeah.
And I think you mentioned that win over Duke and Maui. That's going to be the gift that keeps on giving for Gonzaga, and if they're on the top line, that's going to be what keeps them there, I think.
So as these matchups get announced here on VSiN, we'll be here until 6 o'clock on the West Coast, 9 o'clock on the East Coast. Once these matchups come out, we will give you our best guess at what the line will be. Kenny White's been doing this for a long, long time. He'll give you the projected number, and then once we start to see these, and I have my board up here, I've got all the casinos in Vegas. You already have the rotation numbers for all the games on Thursday and Friday. Once they pop on the screen, we will let you know the line right here on the Selection Sunday special. So, Kenny, you mentioned that Gonzaga is number 2 in your power ratings. Can you give us maybe the top 5 or top 6 teams as they stand right now heading into Selection Sunday?
Yeah, no problem. I got Duke number 1. I got them a 131.5 rating. Gonzaga number 2, 130.5, just a point behind Duke. My number 3 team is North Carolina. 4 is Virginia. 5 is Michigan State. 6 is Kentucky, 7 is Tennessee.
Don't really have much of an argument there. I was really hoping to see a good game yesterday between Kentucky and Tennessee Youmans, and my God, I know we had Kentucky in that game, and it sucked to lose that one, but I would love to see those 2 teams. I want another. I want round 4 between.
I had a headache for about 2 hours after that game because I had Kentucky, and you have an 8-point lead with 2.5 minutes to go.
2:54.
Yeah. That's a game you're going to win. What percentage of the time, Kenny?
Yeah, I'm
85, 90?
Yeah, I was going to say 90% of the time. Believe me, when I was up 8, I went back to start going to my apps to see how much I actually bet on them. As soon as I do that, forget it. That's the kiss of death. Turnover, 3-pointer, turnover, 3. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's Grant Williams, too, Bruce, in the corner. Of all the guys, I know he's one of the best players in the SEC, but you'd think you'd be more okay if it's a guard, not the 6'9" power forward hitting a 3.
Yeah, I thought that score was a misprint. Because it looked the whole way like, Tennessee was going to fall. But apparently they left that effort on the floor yesterday because they didn't have it today, that's for sure.
They were 2 steps slow today.
At least.
Amazing how many balls they fumbled. Auburn's hands and feet were lightning quick compared to what we saw to Tennessee. Tennessee looked like UNLV.
Now,
Whoa.
with Michigan's loss today, and again, I had Michigan, so it was a tough one because they had a 13-point lead in that second half.
You got to explain this to me, though. Everybody playing Michigan today. Michigan State won twice without Nick Ward. Both times they didn't have Nick Ward, their second best player on their team. And then Nick Ward plays today. How was Michigan the favorite?
Well, I thought Charles Matthews being in was more important, and then Michigan went small in that second half because Matthews didn't play in the first two meetings against Sparty, and the way Beeline went small in this game today, I mean, they were up 13 points.
Yeah, no, they were. Yeah, I know they were
with 10 minutes
to
go. So I thought double revenge, and the market moved because Sparty opened -1, and then it closed Michigan. -1.5.
Well, there was twos out there.
You also had reports that Cassius Winston was limping after yesterday's game. So if Winston was not going to be at full speed today, I mean, that's a big deal
That's
for
big,
the Spartans.
yeah.
It turned out he played really well. He shot 5 for 13, had 14 points and 11 assists.
I think the marketplace is reluctant to take a comparable team to beat another comparable team 3 times in a season. Yeah, here's another one. You had Houston-Cincinnati today. I mean, Houston going for the hat trick, and they didn't get it. So it's tough to beat a team, another good team, 3 times in a row.
The key to that is
if I factor that in, you have to. You're right.
Yeah, sure.
It's worth 2.5, almost 3 points to the betting line.
Yeah.
So you factor that in, and I still factored it in. I still thought Michigan State was the better basketball team.
not tough to beat a bad team or a mediocre team 3 times, but it's tough to beat a good team that's well coached. John Beilein, one of the best coaches in the country, I didn't think Michigan State was going to be able to sweep 3 from Michigan. All 3 times Wolverines blew second half leads. You just don't see that with Beilein teams. Let's face it, who thought Matt McQuaid was going to make 7 threes today for the Spartans?
When you miss it, they were down. I'm sure you were on your way in here. They were up 5. Michigan was up 5, and McQuaid got a defender up in the air, leaned into him, threw up a 3, got fouled, made all 3. Then Michigan came down, bricked the shot. McQuaid got it again, buried another 3, and they never really looked back. The other matchup, we mentioned the 3 for 3 and how tough it is for the hat trick in your conference, the West Coast. I mean, St. Mary's beating Gonzaga in round 3.
I thought that was the most brilliantly executed game plan that I've seen in tournament week or coming up week and a half. They dribbled Gonzaga into submission in that game. They just took them out of their flow with that ball handling and the ball movement. And St. Mary's, I mean, they're a legitimate bubble thief. The A-10 is another bubble thief. We will see if Arizona State makes the tournament, then Oregon was a bubble thief last night too. If not, then Oregon just took Arizona State's place in the tournament. But St. Mary's, that shook the field, that's for sure.
So, gentlemen, we have the East bracket. We have the first 4 game between Belmont and Temple. That's an 11 and an 11 in the first 4. And then we have North Dakota State and NC Central. That'll be your 2 play-in games in the East region. Duke is the number 1 overall seed in the East, so the Blue Devils, undoubtedly the number 1 overall seed. And many people will apologize and say that, they didn't have Zion for the full season. So Duke is the 1 in the East. Your 8-9 matchup is alphabet soup, VCU and UCF out of Central Florida. That is the East 8-9.
That's a really good matchup. Just based on my numbers, I got VCU a 2.5-point favorite in that game. Kenny, what do you have? VCU against UCF?
I've got UCF a half, and Evans got hurt, VCU's best player in the last game. Don't know if he's going to play or not. If he doesn't play, he's a 3-point guy. I'd make UCF 3.5 in the game. So I'm thinking it's a pick'em game. Maybe you could use VCU
if he doesn't play, that'd be a big deal. I was assuming he's going to play.
Yeah.
We don't know that yet.
We don't know that yet.
Questionable for now. The 5-12 matchup, you've got Mississippi State and Liberty. And then the top half of this bracket, Bruce closes out with the 4-13 matchup. It is Virginia Tech. The Hokies get a 4, and they will take on the Billikens of St. Louis, who beat the Bonnies today.
Well, here's your first bubble alert out of this region. Belmont makes it, and they were a team first 4 out, last
great.
4 in, and they made it into the play-in game, and Temple too. So Fran Dunphy gets one more shot, and both those teams are sitting on the cut line there. So that may not bode well for those Big Ten
Oklahoma,
teams.
they're crying in Bloomington right now, too, at Indiana.
Ohio State, TCU, Indiana. Indiana's in bad shape anyway, but that's significant because Belmont in particular. Hooray for the selection committee to give the Ohio Valley a second.
So let's finish the matchups, and then we'll get into some lines here with Kenny White. 6-11 would be Maryland against the winner of Belmont Temple. Maryland 22-10 this year out of the Big Ten. Still a little weird to say that Maryland's in the Big Ten, but it is what it is. Your 3-14 matchup is LSU and Yale, as Yale got it done today against Harvard. There's another situation where Yale had lost the first 2 meetings, and they win the most important one to get in. The 7-10, there's a lot of Patino flavor here. The old man's old squad. Louisville will be the 7, Minnesota the 10, and then Michigan State, who just won the Big Ten championship in Chicago, facing the Bradley Braves out of Peoria, Illinois.
There is Matt's point about Michigan State. I think they had Michigan State on the 2 line no matter what happened in the Big Ten championship today. So I think they were going to be there no matter what.
All right, let's go to the lines here, Kenny. We've got the 5-12. You told us VCU, UCF already. How about Mississippi State and Liberty in the 5-12 matchup?
I make Mississippi State 13 and 136.
Virginia Tech and St. Louis. That's your 4-13 matchup in San Jose, East Region.
Hate this number. Justin Robinson's coming back for Virginia Tech. I make a 15.5, and I really like the St. Louis team. They play so slow. They just can't shoot. A total of 122.5. You hate to make a number that big. I don't think it's going to come that high. But Virginia Tech is so good. They can shoot it and play defense.
This one's always interesting because you take a very athletic, you've got like 3 or 4 guys that are 6'8", 6'9", or bigger at LSU, and you put them against Yale. Even though Yale had 97 points today in the Ivy League championship, LSU and Yale, that's a great matchup, Bruce.
You know, this reminds me, 3 years ago, Yale and Baylor, which was a similar sort of team 3 years ago to what LSU is now.
Baylor went down.
And Yale almost beat Duke in the next round. So give Coach Jones credit. This may not be. And listen, LSU's got these distractions hanging over it, so it might be a little tricky.
I think Yale is going to be a very popular upset pick.
I agree.
For a lot of people here in this 3-14 game. And if you give Yale too many points, that's definitely the side I'll be on. Kenny, what are you going to make this number?
10.5, 160. Yale loves to run, and so does LSU.
Wow.
Should be a fun game, but 10.5 is what I have.
I was going to say I want 8 or 9, but I'll take 10.5 with Yale.
I was actually thinking 8. Okay.
Well, with Will Wade, I mean, we don't know if Will Wade's going to be there. Kenny, I know that.
It's true.
I know this all plays into what you do, but I mean, how much is a guy like Will Wade worth? Because that's a team that at times this year was very erratic, very inconsistent, and with their conductor not at the helm, how much of a drop-off is that on the point spread?
Really hard to say.
Okay.
I mean, it really is because he's not on the court. He's already put his team in place. They had summer ball. They got ready for the season. They played the entire year. His assistants know exactly what he wants to do. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's worth anything.
How about also the location of these games? That's one thing.
That's big.
I can't see on the brackets right now.
Jacksonville.
These games are in Jacksonville? I wouldn't say that's much
All 4?
Of an advantage to
Well,
LSU.
Maryland and then the play-in, the winner of Belmont Temple, LSU and Yale. That's a Tiger can get from Baton Rouge to Jacksonville pretty quickly, right?
I will guarantee you every neutral at where Yale is playing.
Yeah.
And this is what happens in these tournaments. The underdogs get the support of the majority of the crowd. So LSU fans, the only ones to be cheering for the Tigers will be those folks from Baton Rouge. Everybody else is going to be back in Yale.
2 more matchups, and then we'll grab a timeout, go down to the Westgate Superbook where Patrick Everson is standing by from covers. The 7-10, Louisville and Minnesota. Kenny, this game is in Des Moines.
I made Louisville 6 and 134.5.
A little higher. I had this at 5, so Louisville by 5.
What do you think of that number, Bruce Marshall? 6 on the Cardinal laying to the Golden Gophers.
Yeah, we have it 6 on our power ratings in the gold sheet with Louisville. I'd be a little reluctant here. We had figured that Minnesota would run out of steam yesterday against Michigan, but I think we saw the Golden Gophers play their way into the tournament here the last couple of weeks. Those wins over Purdue were very big.
And the 2-15 matchup, they will never forget the 2-15 matchup when Michigan State went down to Middle Tennessee a handful of years ago. So now, Kenny, it's Michigan State Bradley. This game is also in Des Moines. I'm going to guess it's at least 14 or 15.
Oh.
20? 22?
Name the score,
30?
whatever they want. I have a 26.5 point difference in power ratings for the team. So
26.
I know it can't be that high. Michigan just beat Michigan State, and they're going to overlook this team. They're not going to, and it's going to be a low-scoring game. A total of 131.5. And they just had a big injury today for Michigan State. I mean, not for the power rating wise, but for the team. I would think this game will come out between 18.5 and 20, though.
Yeah, we have it 21 in our rating, so I could see this being one of the highest in the whole first round.
21 points between Michigan State and Bradley. Interesting. All right, that's the East region. When we come back, we'll have a whole lot more. You got the Midwest, you've got the South, you've got the West, and we will go down to the Westgate Superbook next here on the Selection Sunday Special, the March to Madness on VSiN.
This is the March to Madness on VSiN. Follow us at vsin.com and listen on SiriusXM channel 204 and on Twitter at VSiN Live. If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
Well, it's official. The Super Contest, under the direction of Jay Kornegay over here at the Westgate Superbook, has opened, what is it, Jay, 4 months earlier this year? Why is that, my friend?
4 months earlier than ever before. So, yeah, we started accepting Super Contest entries today. And we just wanted to give those that come in during March Madness, Kentucky Derby, the beginning of baseball season, all those fans that come during this time, the opportunity to join the Super Contest.
Okay. Now, what do we have? Entries last year. What do you expect this year?
Well, last year we had 3,123, with the winner collecting just over 1.4 million. I think that, if we're able to get this technology thing figured out, we know there's a lot of technology out there, but we're wanting the selection process to be through our mobile app. And if we can get that, I'm sure the locals here are really going to warm up to that, and we can approach 4,000 entries.
4,000. Well, VSiN 1 and VSiN 2 are officially in. I've got my Westgate Las Vegas Super Contest t-shirt. Now I just need some winners, my friend.
Well, one of the reasons that we, started the process earlier was to jack up that, prize money for you, Brent. Maybe 1.4 wasn't enough for you. Maybe 1.8 is the more attractive. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So there we have it. The Super Contest is officially underway, and also the gold. Don't forget that. Winner take all. You've still got the same rules for the gold.
That's right. It is winner take all. It's $5,000 entry fee. Same rules as the Super Contest. 5 games against the spread each and every week of the regular season. And whoever accumulates the most points, the most winners in that contest, winner take all. We had 124 last year, which the winner collected just over 450,000. Maybe we'll get over 500,000 this year.
Okay. And if you're out of state, remember, you come to the Westgate, you enter, but you can use a proxy. That's right. You can send in your picks and they'll make them for you. The Super Contest. Can't wait.
Welcome back to the March to Madness, a daily update on the best of the NCAA tournament. Listen to us on SiriusXM channel 204 and follow us online at vsin.com and on Twitter at vsin live.
3:17 here in Las Vegas. Welcome back. The March to Madness, the Selection Sunday special here on SiriusXM 204, vsin.com, Fubo TV. Kenny White, Matt Youmans, Bruce Marshall. My name is Sam Panayotovich. We will go to the Westgate momentarily and check in with Patrick Everson from Covers.com, but we have the tweet for you here on the screen. The Brain Trust here at the South Point, right over my shoulder, getting ready to make some numbers here. Vinny Magliulo, Richie Baccellieri, and Chris Andrews in the man cave in the back of the South Point Sportsbook, getting all the numbers ready. And once they pop them up, they'll be on your app. They'll be live at the books, both South Point and Rampart, and a $10,000 limit, $5,000 limit on the app. And we hope to have both Richie and Chris on the show over the next 3 hours or so. For now, and we will get to the bracket after we talk to Patrick Everson. We're starting to get some numbers. Virginia is the number 1 seed in that West region, or in the South region, rather. But we'll get those matchups and those lines after we talk to Patrick, who joins us now live at the Westgate. Patrick, what's the scene down there, and what's going on at the Westgate?
Sam, pretty cool scene here. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you all.
Wow, look at that.
Obviously, I'm ready. Got the Covers branded leprechaun hat and everything. I made sure to take care of everything, the Ireland shirt and all. But no, actually, it's a really good turnout here. Pretty good crowd. Waiting and watching as some of these numbers, some of these seedings get released. Talking with the guys behind the counter, talking with Derek Wilkinson, he noted that all the odds are gonna release at once. They're gonna crunch all these numbers, and then they're all gonna go up. They'll be on the app, obviously. They'll be on the big board behind me here at the Superbook at Westgate. And I asked him just kind of paint a picture back there. They're all just kind of watching. They're already crunching numbers on this, obviously. And there's 4 people in the war room, I guess you could call it, at the Superbook, trying to get these 32 plus games together. Those the round of that entry round on Tuesday and Wednesday night, and then of course the other 28 matchups that will definitely be set for Thursday and Friday. while the other 4 games we wait on to see how those first 4 in go.
So I have to paint this picture for those on radio. Green fleece, green T-shirt, and green hat. You look like the Lucky Charms guy, Patrick.
Hey, me Lucky Charms.
Perfect. So you said that they're gonna bunch all these lines together and release them all at once. So last year, a lot of the books go to Nuggets, South Point. They started to do it region by region. Did they give an explanation as to why they're going to release them all at once, as opposed to how they did it last year?
I'm gonna, if you'll forgive this, I'm gonna look at my phone here, and according to Derek Wilkinson, we're waiting for these selections to be fully announced before discussing lines. Okay, so that they may post them. They'll just they'll discuss them once they get them all up. So they may be posting along the way there.
All right, so you've got Duke as the one in the East, Virginia as the one in the South. And, Matt, I'm looking at some of these matchups here. How about the 5-12 between Wisconsin and Oregon?
I just made my number on that. By the way, that game is in San Jose, so that's advantage Oregon right there in that first-round matchup. I've actually, just on raw numbers, I got Wisconsin 1.5, but the fact the game's in San Jose, Kenny, I'm not going to make Wisconsin the favorite here. How about you?
I didn't make that game. We were talking about other games, so I didn't even get a chance to. I'm looking at the bottom of the South. I need the top of the South matchups to take care of those, and I'll catch up with you guys.
What do you think, Bruce? Because I've got, if you play this game anywhere but San Jose, I've got Wisconsin 1.5, but I think this is a definite edge for the Ducks to play close to home.
I agree. They will travel there. Wisconsin travels pretty well too, but This is a good spot for Oregon. We've adjusted Oregon's rating since the Pac-12 tournament started. I mean, This time last week, this would have been 4, and I think now 2 Wisconsin, but if you figure in San Jose, I'm going to say Wisconsin 1.
And how about this, Patrick? About a week ago, Oregon, before the Pac-12 tournament, to win the big dance, they were 500-1. I looked up this morning and saw them about 80-1 at a couple books in Vegas.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I got a good look at last week's Oregon-Washington game to cap the regular season. I thought the Ducks looked good and wrote as much on covers on Tuesday and Wednesday leading into the Pac-12 tournament here in town at T-Mobile Arena. I thought the Ducks were a sneaky good number 6 seed to run through that tournament, and they ended up running through that tournament, which was really the only way they were going to get in. And I'm with you, Matt. I think this is a better spot for the Ducks than they could have anticipated. Playing much closer to home, and I certainly like their chances based on the way they played the last 4 nights.
Yeah, it's a 5-12 game. I still think Wisconsin's going to be a favorite. I'll say Wisconsin 1, but I like the 12 to win that game. I think Oregon's going to be a popular pick. Bruce, this is a totally different Ducks team since Dana Altman made the lineup adjustment. He's got Peyton Pritchard, one of the best college point guards you're ever going to see, with 4 6'9" guys out there. That defense is so long and athletic. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. Both these teams are going to struggle for buckets. I would say a total in the low 120s, and I like Oregon in the game.
I was going to ask Kenny what he thinks the total would be in this game. I'm thinking.
I'm just looking at that game right now. Oregon's playing great defense right now.
And they're going under consistently, except that overtime game the other night. I mean, I'd say 118.
Okay.
117.
I watched Wisconsin play the last couple of games. I'm not impressed with Ian Happ. He's a great passer. He's a really smart player, but he's such a big guy. He's so soft under the back. He never goes up strong for a layup, and that bothers me.
Well, he's scared of getting fouled. He doesn't want to go to the line.
Go up strong. We'll score the basket and just miss 1 free throw. Don't get 2.
Oregon's got some long athletes who are going to give Ethan Happ a lot of trouble in this matchup, too.
They're a better team without Bull. And I thought that as soon as he went down, because Bull didn't make anybody else better on that team. It took a while for the Ducks to adjust, but they're full of athletes there with Wooten and King and Paul White. By the way, sneaky good in that pod, which is in San Jose, 4-13. UC Irvine, I'm telling you, is a matchup. They're big, and they're going to cause some problems, and we're not sure. Dean Wade might not be 100%. Bruce Weber was holding them out for Kansas State this week.
Wow. Look at this matchup. Sorry, Bruce, in the Midwest. How about this 8-9 matchup? Utah State, the Mountain West champ, against Washington, the Pac-12 regular season champ. I like that.
And Kansas gets a 4 against Northeastern, so you could be looking at Kansas and Auburn in that Saturday game in Salt Lake City. But, Patrick, back to Wisconsin for a second before we let you go, and we'd love to keep checking in with you over at the Westgate. This Wisconsin team, there have been many people for years that no matter how they play in the regular season, they give them a path, and they put them into the Sweet 16. They give them a nice little run. They had 17 turnovers in their win 2 days ago. And then yesterday, they shot about 3 of 20 from downtown. This is not your typical Wisconsin club as far as sharp shooting and taking care of the basketball.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to be careful here. And again, it's just I don't think this is really the ideal first-round matchup to have to go to San Jose and face an Oregon team that I believe has won and covered 8 in a row. And Matt and Kenny, you guys' points to the under. I believe Oregon's been a pretty good under team all season long. Let me throw one more point out there, kind of off the grid from that. But I was talking with him behind the counter about the number 1 overall seed, Duke. Obviously, no surprise there. But what I thought was kind of interesting is Duke was plus 180 to win the championship before Zion Williamson got hurt last month. They moved to plus 225 right away here at the Superbook. Ultimately, stretched out to plus 250. They've been back at plus 225 for a while, and that's where it was Thursday before the ACC quarterfinals. That's where it is this afternoon, still at plus 225. So as good as Zion has looked and Duke has looked with Zion back in the lineup, not moving the needle on the futures book yet.
That is Patrick Everson at @covers_Vegas.
What happened to this? Where's his hat?
I don't know where the hat went. Yeah, where'd you put the hat?
I decided to get a little professional. It's back on now. If you want to take it. There we go. How's that?
All right.
Top of the morning to you. I found me Lucky Charms.
Live at the Westgate Superbook. Thanks, Patrick. We'll check in soon.
You betcha.
All right, when we come back, we have all the lines being calculated. Now Kenny White will let us know what we're looking at in the South region where we know the field. That's next year on the Selection Sunday Special, the March to Madness.
This is the March to Madness on VSiN. Follow us at vsin.com and listen on SiriusXM channel 204 and on Twitter at VSiN Live. If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
No, it didn't go that far, but there was one panel, and I can't remember the team. They put you in a room. You were in a center chair. Their coaches and the scouts were surrounding in the dark area, so it had like a little spotlight on you, if you will, like you were being interrogated. And the question was, and I remember this vividly because it really stands out, 20 plus years later. Your girlfriend washes your underwear. You have all whiteys on, and she accidentally mixes them with colors, and then your underwear come out pink. What do you do? I say, well, I wear the underwear, go to the store and buy some new pair. I guess they were just wondering if they could test you.
How many guys, by the way, side note, have you known in your years here in Las Vegas that caught a beating in a casino?
I've known several.
Several?
Yeah. I mean, I actually am really good friends with the guys who got the worst one, the one at the back of Binion's, where the one guy went to the hospital, almost died. His name's Alan Brown. And there were 2 guys, Alan Brown and Barry Finn. And that beating, in the back of Binion's, that beating is kind of almost put an end. It didn't put a complete end to it, but that's when all the casinos got together and said, we got to stop doing this because somebody almost died.
Just because it worked out doesn't mean you should be making that bet. All right, at minus 575, I hope folks are realizing, and again, this is where you have a gambling network and you try to say to people, it's sort of can you hold 2 thoughts in your head at the same time? Just because it won doesn't mean that it was the right bet to make. And again, Tampa Bay is one of these teams. They're already in the playoffs. They got nothing really to play for, right? They're in. So any game where a team doesn't have to be 100% motivated, probably shouldn't be laying just on principle that kind of juice, period.
So it's a slightly different brand of hockey in the postseason, as we saw last year when Marc-Andre Fleury gives up a grand total of 3 goals in a 4-game sweep of the Kings in the first round when you have a great goalie. And even when you're going up against a great goalie like Jonathan Quick for the Kings last year in the first round, that experience for Fleury, he's been to 5 Stanley Cup finals. He's won 3 times. I think that gives the Knights an edge, regardless of where they finish in the standings.
Welcome back to the March to Madness, a daily update on the best of the NCAA tournament. Listen to us on SiriusXM channel 204 and follow us online at vsin.com and on Twitter at vsin live.
We're glad you're with us here on VSiN, the Selection Sunday Special. Matt Youmans, Kenny White, Bruce Marshall, Sam Panayotovich giving you numbers and projected numbers for all the games here in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So, Kenny, let's kick it back over to you for number 1, Virginia, against number 16, Gardner-Webb. This is a game in Columbia, South Carolina.
It's not Maryland, Baltimore County? Virginia?
I think it's Webb.
I'm glad they're probably really happy that's not Maryland, Baltimore County. You could name the score here. I have Virginia 31 points better. I think the line will be probably 25.5, 26 in that range.
I got 25. Virginia 25.
Bruce, how about you?
The Runnin' Bulldogs from Boiling Springs, North Carolina, will be a popular, just a sentimental pick here.
Money line.
I would point out, though, that these guys did go into the ACC this season and win a couple games. Now, not at Virginia or North Carolina.
Gardner Webb won on the road at Campbell.
Yeah, they do like to run.
This is a team that actually does run and can win on the road. So I don't totally disrespect Gardner Webb, but I think 25 is a fair number.
Georgia Tech and Wake Forest.
Georgia Tech and Wake Forest, they won. It's still, not great ACC teams, but they won. They played at Virginia Tech. So, they were pretty well tested, and they're not the worst. And, Virginia has not always, even before last year, Virginia was not always the most reliable team in the first round. Their pace suggests it's going to be, they're a tough team to lay 25 or more with in the first round.
Last year, Virginia won the conference tournament, though.
Yes.
Like they went in kind of fat into the NCAA. Now, this year they got upset in the conference tournament. Gardner Webb loves to run, and this is the best offensive Virginia team I've seen in a while. I think they could put up a pretty big number. I made the total 134, which is a high total for a Virginia game.
No doubt about it. 134 for a Virginia game. Usually you see them in the high 110s and low 120s. On to the 8-9, also in Columbia in the South region. Ole Miss, Oklahoma. The Sooners get in, and that says it's pretty convincingly. They got a 9 seed in the South region. What do we make the Rebels and the Sooners?
Okay, one thing, I crunched some numbers from the last 2 years, favorites, underdogs, overs, unders. There's no trends, and I knew there wouldn't be, and because there hasn't been over the years. It's all going to come out in the wash. Favorites are going to win 50% of the time or 49% of the time. But the one thing I noticed over the last 2 years, there were 5 games that one side was a small favorite and the other side closed to the small favorite, where the money went 4 out of 5 times. That team won easily. I think Oklahoma's a 1.5 better, but I think Mississippi's going to be the favorite here. I think Mississippi will be 1 and 142.
How about you, Bruce?
We have a Mississippi 3 on our power ratings into last week. So, Oklahoma did they did enough down the stretch to get in. I'm a little bit surprised they were at a 9. I thought they would be one of these teams right at the cut line, maybe even in the at-large play-in. So they got a break from the selection committee here. But I think Ole Miss will be favored here.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're all in the same neighborhood. I've got Mississippi 1.5. I wouldn't go higher than 2. Let's put it that way.
So I'm looking at, we're going to skip here to the number 1 seeds. We know our last number 1 seed: Duke, Virginia, North Carolina, Gonzaga. So it is 3 ACC teams and the Bulldogs out of the West Coast Conference. Those are your 4 number 1 seeds. It's Gonzaga in the West with 3 ACC teams. Let's go back to Wisconsin, Oregon. For those that just missed the conversation we had about 10 minutes ago, this is the 5-12. But again, location. Kenny, this game is in San Jose. Very, very excitable game between the Badgers and the Ducks.
What a great game. And Dana Altman, great coach, has his team playing the best they've played all year. I think Wisconsin's going to be the favorite, though. 1.5, total 113.5.
Bruce, what say you?
Wow, 113. Here's
113.
I was at the Pac-12 title game last night, and here's the problem with these low totals in games where teams are just going to foul to the bitter end.
Yeah.
That game should have landed on 105 last night. It got to 116 because they would not stop fouling, even down 17 points at the end. That's why I think it's so tough to bet under a total like that. I was thinking more of a total like 121, but Kenny's more of a total.
I bet you it's not going to come 113.5. That's what I made it.
Right.
But it'll probably be somewhere right in the middle of what you're saying. I'm going to guess 117 is what this total.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue too much with that. I just think it's difficult with all the fouling at the end and the free throws, and you never know how many points are going to be scored in the last minute of games like that.
Sometimes there's no points scored.
Sometimes there are none. Sometimes there are none.
We released that under last night. And,
did you?
And I saw what Hopkins was doing. He told his guys, you play this all the way out here. And it was more like a scolding to his team. They said, we're not just going to play out the last 3 minutes and sit. They were actually...
Hey, there was no way Auburn, Tennessee goes over today.
Yeah.
Tennessee was fouling down 20 with 2.5 to go. They started to foul. And I was like, are you kidding me?
You can never tell.
You never know this, the coach's strategies. You got coaches that give up down 5 last year in the tournament. Oh, we can't win. We're down 5.
That was Leonard Hamilton,
yeah,
I believe.
We're
Right?
down 5. We can't win.
But Patrick mentioned this Oregon under trend here. It's 12-2 the last 14 to the under for the Ducks. So they have been landing under, and I can see this number in the 1-teens.
On to the 4-13 matchup in the South, and Bruce Marshall has already said, look out for California Irvine. It's the number 4 seeded Kansas State against the number 13 UC Irvine. UC Irvine this year, Kenny, 30-5, and this is a game real close to home. San Jose in the South region. Kansas State, UC Irvine.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think Kansas State's going to be between 8.5 and 6.5, depending on Dean Wade. Total, I made 115. I could see it's probably going to be around 120, but it's a game I'm going to look to go under in.
I've got K-State -6, and I am not including Dean Wade in this. I don't think he's going to play in the tournament from what I've read. No.
We've got K-State 5 in our power ratings here. We have a lot of respect for Irvine. I'm telling you, they're going to cause some matchup problems for
I think
teams. They are
Irvine
big.
can win this game, yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I could see them emerging out of that quadrant there just because of their size. They cause matchup problems, and if Wade can't play or is less than 100%, it's a problem for K-State.
A lot of love for the Yen-Eaters on the set.
I like UC Irvine a lot in this game. In fact, the K-State insiders are saying that they're going to say he's questionable. The game make it kind of a mystery, but he's not going to be ready to go.
Kelly told you that?
No, it wasn't Kelly. It wasn't your girlfriend, Kelly.
Your girlfriend.
So one big global shop just opened up Kansas State -8.5. And from the sounds of it, that is too high, according to the 3 wise men on the set.
All right, can I get down on that right now?
I will not take it personally.
With no Wade, I said.
Right.
8.5, 6.5 without him.
Greg Peterson just bet it at 8.5.
Okay. Let's go to the 6-11, which is in Hartford, Connecticut, an essential home game for Villanova and a hell of a trip for St. Mary's, all the way from West Coast to East Coast. You've got the 6-11, Kenny, Villanova, St. Mary's.
Villanova, St. Mary's. Villanova 4.5 and 130.
I got Villanova 5, so right there.
Bruce, how about you? Villanova, Mary's.
We've got Villanova 4 off our power rating. So I don't think I'll be more than 5. Villanova hasn't been covering numbers. This isn't the team it was last year. St. Mary's got a lot of respect for that win over Gonzaga, so I don't think this number is going to go too far north of 5.
One of the teams that I wrote down, and I always do this every year, about 2 weeks going into the big tournament, I always make a list of mid-majors that I'm hoping to get a good number on. And this team on the 14 line is a team that I have written down. Old Dominion. The Monarchs are the 14 in Hartford, and they take on the number 3 Purdue Boilermakers.
I'm going to predict right now that Kenny and I have a big difference in this number.
Which game went? What game? Purdue?
Purdue, Old Dominion.
Yeah, probably we will because Purdue is not a very good team right now. They're just too sporadic. I've got a 15.5-point difference in the power rating, but a low total. I would say Purdue's going to be about 12.5 in this game, 127.5.
I got Purdue 6.5. I knew we were going to have a huge difference here. I knew it. Well, I made Purdue 6 against Minnesota. The betting markets had 10.5, and I thought Minnesota had a great shot to win the game and did win the game.
Did.
The thing is, you have to downgrade this Purdue team significantly. Carson Edwards has been banged up. He's got back and wrist injuries, reportedly. He has shot horribly since early February. Purdue is 4-7 against the spread. Past 11, this team has been underperforming. I don't think the ratings have been adjusted enough, and I think Purdue's going to be life and death to win this game. So I've got Purdue 6.5.
It came out 11 on our power ratings in the last issue. I think we dropped that a little bit because we're going to strengthen ODU a little bit. Mm-hmm. There's a number to watch here on the total side: 7 straight on the unders for Old Dominion, 9 of 10. By the way, Carson Edwards, if this is what's wrong with Purdue right now, I mean, he better get well in about 4 days.
He hasn't shot the ball well in a month and a half.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I don't think he's going to get well quickly here. This could be a game they struggle to win.
I think the rating on Purdue is super inflated by most people. If you've watched this team and actually just paid attention to the results and crunch numbers, Purdue has been nothing better than a mediocre team for the past month and a half.
So, Kenny, you said 12.5 or 13. They just opened a couple global numbers. Purdue minus 13.5. So
I'll take
there.
Points.
You like the Monarchs.
That's going to be one of my best bets.
All righty.
Let me bet it.
On to the 7-10. 2 more matchups, and we'll give you the 4 teams that were on the bubble that didn't make it. The 7, Cincinnati Bearcats, and the 10, the Iowa Hawkeyes. But this game is in Columbus, so essentially a home game for Cincinnati here. 28-6, the Bearcats against the Hawkeyes, 22-11. Cincinnati and Iowa. Kenny White.
Cincinnati 3 and 131.
Yeah, I got Cincinnati 2.5. So
We had Cincy 5.
really,
We really dropped Iowa the last.
Iowa's
weeks.
a poor defensive team, so it's
They
an
are.
interesting matchup here because you got a great defensive team in Cincinnati against the Big Ten's worst defensive team in Iowa. So maybe my 2.5 is a little bit light because I do like Cincinnati in that matchup.
Iowa's not bringing a lot of momentum into the tournament here.
2 global books. Youmans open it up. Cincinnati -2.5.
Okay.
So right in with you. And then the last matchup here in the South region, with the regional final being in Louisville, you've got Tennessee and the Fighting Toothpaste of Colgate. The 2:15, Tennessee and Colgate. This will be a Friday game in Columbus.
You know what? This is similar, I think, to the Purdue Old Dominion matchup, and I think Colgate's capable of actually taking this game to the wire. Now, the number is going to be a lot higher than what I think it should be, so I'll probably be on the Colgate side, but Tennessee is, in my book right now, a 15-point favorite, but I would take the points.
I've got a 24-point difference between the two teams, but Tennessee winning or going to the championship game, I think they have a little bit of letdown to look ahead. This is a game they go through the motions again. I think 19 is the right number in this game.
Bruce, you a believer in Colgate?
I'm a believer in the over with Colgate.
Really?
And the Patriot was a great
146.5.
over. I'll go over. It was a great over league this year. And Colgate, Bucknell, Lehigh, all these teams are going over every game. And look down in the tournament, they were over every game in the Patriot there. So that would be my first call. Anytime a Patriot team is involved in any of these tournaments, the others coming up this week, I'm looking over.
What's the number you make on the side, Bruce? I agree with what Kenny said. I think the number is going to be higher than what I make it, but I like Colgate to hang in this game. What do you have? About 20?
19.
Okay.
19. But I could see making a case for Colgate there. Sure.
And we don't have any Vegas numbers yet, but they're starting to pop up. We're starting to see some numbers in the global markets, and we have 20.5 at a couple books here. Tennessee laying 20.5, and now it just went to 20. So already some money coming in on Colgate. Here are the first 4 out. The first 4 that did not make the tournament. UNC Greensboro did not make the big dance. Alabama, out. TCU, out. Indiana, out. Those are your first 4. UNC Greensboro, Alabama, TCU, Indiana did not make.
No problem with those teams being bumped. I think Greensboro, I would have liked to have seen that team in the field, but if I'm not sure if we missed something here, but Texas did not make the field, right?
I did not catch Texas getting in.
No Texas? Okay.
What are they, 500 team though?
Yeah, 16 and 16.
Yeah.
Texas is not in.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is sort of a knock on the Big 12 here. TCU, a lot of people projected them last 4 in, and they thought that little surge at the end, the win over Texas, didn't help them as much as people thought. So Jimmy Dixon to the NIT, it looks like.
Looks like Ohio State is in. They are an 11 in the Midwest, and you also have Arizona State making it into the first 4. That'll be a game on March 20th. It'll be Arizona State and St. John's.
Second year in a row for Arizona State in the first 4.
That hasn't happened in 30 years. I saw the other day. They flashed that up at the Pac-12 tournament. Arizona State hadn't made back-to-back tournaments since the 1970s. All right, when we come back here on the Selection Sunday special, we tackle the Midwest region. North Carolina, Washington, Auburn, Kansas, Iowa State, Houston, Wofford, Kentucky. What could the lines be? Answers next here on VSiN.
This is the March to Madness on VSiN. Follow us at vsin.com and listen on SiriusXM channel 204 and on Twitter at VSiN Live. Catch VSiN last week. Here's some of what you missed.
Now, I'm not taking anything away from the run that Nick had. Absolutely. But the offense was incredibly simplistic, 1. And 2, we've seen Nick Foles in his starting role and saw him when you try to open up the offense for him, how he struggled. The future in my mind of Philadelphia quarterbacking is no doubt it's Carson Wentz. But when you have somebody come in and play at a level like Nick Foles did in the playoff run, the Super Bowl run last year, and then the playoff run, and especially when Carson got hurt, all of a sudden you hear the chatter. Well, maybe we should go with Nick Foles. And the last thing you want to do if you're head coaching or you're anywhere around the Eagles is create a quarterback controversy.
All right, well, what was the first comp? The comp that everybody got in Vegas? Free parking.
Sure.
Right? So they took away the fundamental first comp. What's the second level comp? Free drinks. If they're going to start taking away free drinks, it's already happening on certain degrees in the bars. I mean, take PTs. PTs pubs, there's 80 of them almost in all around Nevada, most of them in Las Vegas. They're great places. Man, these guys know how to run a bar. right? But they are stingy on video poker comps. They watch you very closely. You're on a pitch count. You're kind of like on a pitch count for getting drinks. And so that's starting to spread. And if that starts going into the casinos, eventually, again, people are going to get sick and tired of it. And they're going to say, I ain't going there next year.
Oh, this is interesting. If they keep Harrison Barnes, they're going to win games and we'll clearly get the pick, but their record will probably be better, so it'll be a worse pick, even though we get it, if you follow that. But when they traded Harrison Barnes now, the Hawks are looking at the Mavericks and they're like, okay, they still will not get to the 5th pick, but our pick will improve now. So it's improving for them, but hey, don't let it improve that much. What Tankapalooza 2.0 now is very isolated. It is about the Mavericks, and it could very well be about the Hawks.
I don't know who could teach Brandon Ingram how to play defense. The kid's soft, and he just never has played defense. You going to pin that on Luke Walton? Did you see that motley crew of clowns that was on the floor last night? I mean, whose idea was it to sign Lance Stevenson, Michael Beasley,
Dale McGee?
How about Contavious Caldwell-Pope? They're paying him $12 million. You look at this group that was put together. It's a complete joke. The blame falls mostly on Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson.
Welcome back to the March to Madness, a daily update on the best of the NCAA tournament. Listen to us on SiriusXM channel 204 and follow us online at vsin.com and on Twitter at vsinlive.
If you're looking for help with your office bracket, or maybe you're heading to Vegas for March Madness, we've got you covered here. VSiN's college basketball tournament betting guide will be packed with information, about 90 pages with stats, analysis, information, everything you need to be a winner. Bracket advice, too, for Brett Musburger, Matt Youmans, Dave Tooley, Steve Makinen, and Hoops Peterson. 90 pages of digital magazine to be ready for you to download by Tuesday, March 19th, and it's designed to last you throughout the 3-week big dance. $14.99, that's it, less than $15, and you can order right now, vsin.com/subscribe, and while you're there, you get a chance to get a part of the $10,000 VSiN Beat the Spread Challenge that comes with your subscription to PointsBear Weekly. Full information, all the details at vsin.com/subscribe. It is the Selection Sunday special here on VSiN. Kenny White, Matt Youmans, Bruce Marshall, Sam Panayotovich. We'll hop over to the Midwest region momentarily, but first, guys, I wanted to just give some credit to the South Point here. They are popping up the first numbers here in Las Vegas, and they're sort of popping up like a game at a time. Here are some numbers. I'll just throw you the games, and if there's anything that stands out, please feel free to jump in. Villanova, St. Mary's. South Point has Villanova -4. Purdue, Old Dominion. Youmans, 13.5 on Old Dominion. That's the number here at the South Point. 13 in the hook.
I'll take the points. I like that. I like that dog. That's like I said. I don't think the ratings have been adjusted enough for how bad Purdue's been the past month.
LSU -9 against Yale. Louisville is laying 4 to Minnesota.
Yale is getting what?
Yale is getting 9 against LSU.
Yeah, I said I had that number at 8, so I would lean towards taking the 9. What else?
Michigan State 20 against Bradley. A pick'em between VCU and Central Florida. How about Virginia laying 24 to Gardner-Webb? Oklahoma is the favorite against Mississippi. Oklahoma -1. And Cincinnati, Iowa, I'm looking at Cincinnati -3. Any big discrepancies, Kenny, with what you have?
No, haven't. You mentioned a lot of the numbers. I've already given you what I've made some of these games. So, no, everything's right in the ballpark right now for me.
Yeah, me too. Although that Purdue number is higher than I thought it would be. I was thinking, our ratings had it at 11. 13.5 seems. I bet they're going to bet that down.
So we mentioned the global numbers. I told you guys that Tennessee was laying 20.5 to Colgate. South Point opened them up. Youmans 17.5.
That's Colgate?
Yep, Colgate getting 17 in the hook here in Vegas, 20 in the global shops.
All right. See, I thought more towards 15, and the number was going to open higher than what I had it. I like Colgate in that matchup. I really do. I would. And Kenny, what's your philosophy on how you should play these underdogs in a week like this? So, you might think, well, I'm going to grab the best number right now. But when the public pours into town this week, a lot of these favorites will get bet up, right? So
I don't know. It used to be. I mean, it used to be that way. It doesn't seem like that anymore.
Would a favorite like Tennessee get bet up?
I don't know. I don't think people are interested in that game. General public, that would be a game they pass.
Okay.
I would have to say, I think they'd like to get more involved in the competitive game.
How about LSU Yale? Would you take the 9 with Yale now, or do you think that's one where you could see 10 at some point?
A game I'm going to be interested to go over in because they both run. Yale loves to run, and even in important games, they're scoring against, and they're scoring against good defenses. Harvard plays good defense. And they just took Harvard apart today.
Most of the tournaments the last 2 days, it was an under festival, except there were a couple of exceptions, and Yale's games and the Ivy both blew over the last 2 days here. So, yeah, they like to get up and down the court, and I could see this one looking to be an over as well.
3 more South Point lines, and then we'll dive deep into the Midwest region. So South Point has Mississippi State laying 9 to Liberty. Oregon, Wisconsin, Richie, Vinny, Chris have the Badgers minus 2.5. Against Oregon. And the last game they just popped up here, 823, 824. Virginia Tech laying 11 to the St. Louis Billikens. So there you have it. Those are your numbers from the South Point. When more pop in, we will take you right there. But on to the Midwest we go with the number 1 North Carolina Tar Heels against the Gales of Iona. This will be a Friday game in Columbus. Kenny, I know you always say with the ones, kind of name your score here. What would you guesstimate Carolina-Iona would be?
I'm going to have... I have North Carolina 33.5 points better, but the line's going to be, I think, somewhere about 26-27.
Yeah, I didn't make that number yet, so go ahead.
All
Bruce,
right.
What do you have?
Yeah, high 20s, about 27. Iona likes to run. The total might be up there high. By the way,
I made it 163, Bruce, and I think I could not argue with higher.
I think you're right. And just an observation, this is one of Roy Williams' best coaching jobs, to get Kobe White to try to play within a team framework. First time I saw this kid play, he hearkened me back to the 70s and guys like Dwight Lamar and Fly Williams, high-usage guards who just had the ball and shot all the time. You normally don't see a North Carolina point guard like that. But he learned as the season went on, and that's credit to Roy.
How about the 8-9 in this one? This is the Midwest region. Utah State and Washington. Youmans, you know I am heavily invested in Utah State for a myriad of reasons, including our head-to-head contest, where I get 1,000 points if Utah State just wins one game.
That's true. You also get $0.
Correct.
Right.
I get like a couple beers or something like that. But this is a matchup here. It's contrasting styles. Kenny, Utah State, they can shoot it well. They've got a lot of upperclassmen that can stick it from downtown. And you've got the 2-3 zone of Washington. This will be a game in Columbus, 8-9 with the winner playing Carolina.
Yeah, Craig Smith's a great coach for Utah State. His first year, he's done a tremendous job. Offensively, they've been outstanding. And you're right, they can really shoot the three well. And that's what they're going to need to do to stay in this game. I think they have the talent to hang around. I made Washington 1 and 131.5.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Sam Merrill's a dead-eye shooter, and Smith's a great coach. I like Hopkins in the Washington 2-3 zone, but Washington's similar to Purdue, a team that has not played well down the stretch. And Washington's faded. I have adjusted the Huskies' rating in a negative way, and I make Washington -1 in this matchup. Bruce?
To quote the inimitable Bill Walton, last night, the dogs are wandering aimlessly in the desert, talking about Washington. And he also said the other day, they're just not shooting their threes very well.
They are not.
That's a problem. Utah State. By the way, Neemias Queta, 6'11" freshman.
He is
with a 7'2" wingspan.
He's a monster.
Possible lottery pick in this draft. If it's a thin draft and he comes out, possible lottery pick.
That'll be a great matchup. Him against Dickerson underneath.
Who do you favor, Bruce? Do you make Washington a slight favorite or no?
No, we had Utah State too on our ratings, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's we say the Utags is a favorite.
On to the 5-12, very popularly bet matchup. People love to put this in their brackets. They always love to pick at least 112. Auburn and New Mexico State out of the WAC. Kenny White, this will be in Salt Lake City.
Auburn, this is a good game. I really like New Mexico State, how they've played. Auburn coming off this SEC championship. Definitely going to be a letdown. I'll be betting New Mexico State in the first half in this game to hang around. But I made Auburn in the game 7.5, 143.5.
I got Auburn 7, and I'm with Kenny here. I think New Mexico State's going to be a live dog, but this might be one you want to split and play the first half as well.
More in the first half.
Yeah, 7, and this is a team, a lot of shooters. They're not big, but they're deep, and they have shooters. And New Mexico State's very live dog.
So Kansas is the 4 in the Midwest, and if all things go their way, they're going to need a lot of help to get into the Final Four, but it would be in Kansas City, so I'm sure Bill Self is excited about the possibilities of playing potentially in Kansas City, but we know, Youmans, this is not a very talented bunch, and they don't have
Kansas is not going to go far unless
size.
these games are played at Allen Fieldhouse, and that would be the Jayhawks' only chance, and that's not going to happen. Sam, you watched it yesterday. Those games were in Kansas City. Iowa State made it look easy against Kansas. I'm very down on this Jayhawks team at this point, and low expectations here.
They do, though. They face Northeastern, Kenny, in the first round, the 4-13. Kansas and Northeastern in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, well, they've had some injuries. Azubuike went out early in the year as a great player. Lagerald Vick went out 10 games ago, and they're playing some young guards right now. They're getting better, I think, than what they were 10 games ago, actually. So Kansas is going to be about 11.5, 12-point favorite here, 139.
We had it on our ratings 6.
6?
Yeah.
Wow.
We were very bullish on Northeastern, so I don't think it's going to. The number will be higher.
Is that more respect for Northeastern or less respect for Kansas?
A little of both.
Okay.
A little of both.
I actually got Kansas 10, but I'm interested in the underdog in this game. Kansas is not shooting the 3 well, and I think this team's not going to last long in the tournament.
We have time for about 1 or 2 more matchups here in the Midwest, and then we'll come back. We'll finish that region and then get into the West region here on the Selection Sunday special on VSiN. The 6-11 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You've got Iowa State and Ohio State, the Cyclones and the Buckeyes. Kenny, what do we got?
I said 3 weeks ago Iowa State was the best team in the Big 12, and then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened to them. Mm-hmm. I bet on them, I guess. I don't know. They just were unbelievable. The games they lost, and now they show up. They're the best team in the conference again. Ohio State's power rating is up and down because Wesson was out 3 or 4 games at the end of the season. That really hurt them badly, but I thought they played well without him. Iowa State 6 and 142.
I got Iowa State 4.5, and Ohio State's a different team with Caleb Wesson back on the floor. Yeah, they were 0-3 without him, but look, they were so much better with Caleb Wesson. So I got Iowa State 4.5. I really have no strong opinion right now, Bruce.
Iowa State 5 in our latest ratings, but it looks like the committee gave Ohio State a break here. They were willing to overlook Wesson's absence now that he's back.
So that's the 6-11. When we come back, we'll finish off this region and then go across to the Western region here. Kenny White, Matt Youmans, Bruce Marshall, Sam Panayotovich. It's the Selection Sunday special right here on VSiN.
This is the March to Madness on VSiN. Follow us at vsin.com and listen on SiriusXM channel 204 and on Twitter at VSiN Live.
Check out the VSiN store for the latest and greatest in sports betting fashion. You'll find VSiN shirts and hats for any occasion. They're made to order so you can find the right design, color, and size. We have more than 30 shirt designs, but some of the more popular collections include our Lucky Numbers collection. Are you an underdog bettor? Maybe a +7.5 is your number. Maybe +3.5. Are you an under player? It's not under until it's over is our most popular shirt design. Maybe you're recovering from a bad beat? We have a shirt to make you look better than you feel. If you're a fan of a particular VSiN show, we have a shirt for you too, including one with Brent's favorite phrase, cashing tickets is what it's all about. Those shirts, plus other designs, VSiN hats, and even VSiN coffee mugs are all available in our online store. Go to vsin.com/store. That's vsin.com/store. And if you have a suggestion for a shirt design, let us know. If we make it, you'll get the first one free.
If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
If Arizona takes Kyler Murray, it's going to be interesting to see what they can spin Josh Rosen into from a draft standpoint.
I agree.
Because to me, you're still looking at a guy, and depends on how teams evaluated him last year. That's why I always find it interesting when some of these players, and I go back to Carl Pickens way back in the day when he said, I'm not going to meet with this team because you're not drafting where I'm going to be drafted. I think it's important for these players to meet with these teams because down the line somebody might want to trade for you. And I think a team might look at Rosen, who they had high on their draft board despite his struggles last year, and say, hey, you know what? This is a guy we can pick up for a late first-round pick or an early second. We should take a shot with him.
Let's go back to the original here, the hot goalie picture of Paulie, please.
Yeah.
I want to post this up here quickly. We have it, right? Yeah, there you go. Paul Howard, hot goalie. Look at that. How old are you right here? 20? 16?
20.
What are you, 18? I don't know.
That's junior year of high school.
Oh, junior high school. Okay, all right. I'm getting the years confused here. So before we pull this here, how much do you love Halle Berry?
Oh, I love Halle Berry.
She's a 10, right? On a scale from 1 to 10?
Sure.
Love her. How much do you like tattoos?
What is that?
That's her latest tattoo.
Come on.
What, you don't like that?
Wow, I like the hair.
Tattoo
What a caboose.
is sexy. Look at that. Now let's go side by side.
Oh, wow.
You think you have a chance?
Get out of here. That guy's dead and buried there.
Hey, look, value is value. This is, and we get to this every week, and we talk about it all during baseball season. But for aspiring sports bettors, again, this is if you're betting with an edge here, this is value is value. Does that mean that if somebody asks you, hey, do you think the Canucks are going to win this game? Actually, no. But if we've made this bet 100 times or 1,000 times, it is a plus EV proposition, meaning that you would win it enough for it to be a value bet over the course of that sample size, and so therefore it is a good bet.
A lot of times with these short favorites, Sam, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, I like to just play the money line on the favorites if I like it, and don't play with fire in a situation like this where you can get burned laying 1.5 and win by 1, or laying 2 and win by 1, and it happened if you laid the 2 with Washington yesterday.
And you always say that too when you have -1.5 or -2. On the flip side of that, if you get 1.5 or +2, you're not taking the money line. You're taking every point you can get because you had, was it UNLV against San Diego State last weekend?
+1.5 and lost by 1.
Welcome to the March to Madness, a daily rundown of the wonderful craziness that is the NCAA tournament, one of the most unique events in sports. From the powerhouses to the Cinderellas, the tournament has it all and will keep you up to speed on all of it. And now, the March to Madness.
4 o'clock here in Las Vegas as you look live at the South Point Hotel and Casino here at the tip of the Strip. It's the Selection Sunday Special on VSiN, Kenny White, Matt Youmans, and Sam Panayotovich, and we resume with the Midwest region. We left off at the 3-14 matchup, which Kenny will pit Houston as the 3 and Georgia State as the 14. This matchup will be in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with the winner facing the winner of Iowa State and Ohio State.
Boy, this Houston team's awfully good. They are fun to watch. They lost today, but trying to beat a team 3 times in a season's awfully difficult to do. But this is a game I think Houston's going to be about a 12.5 point favorite, 140.5.
So this is Houston and Georgia State?
Georgia State, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. I'm still making the number on that game, Sam. Give me a minute.
And nothing in Vegas yet, and the South Point is the only book right now in Las Vegas that has lines. We have some global options, but we're trying to keep it South Point friendly, and they're the first here, first across the line in a lot of these games. Nothing yet on Houston, Georgia State, but they do have a number on the game just below that in the Midwest region. They do have Wofford and Seton Hall. Kenny, Vinny, Richie, and Chris have Wofford as a 2-point favorite against Seton Hall.
Yeah, I can see that. I made Wofford 1. They're the 7 seed against 10 seed.
Yeah.
See, they got Wofford's a really good basketball team. I've enjoyed watching them play this year a couple of times. But Seton Hall is playing well, I think, down the stretch here. They may be too long and athletic. Their defense may be a little bit too much. If you compare defenses, Seton Hall's got the better defense. Wofford's way better on the offensive end.
Yeah, it's not a great matchup here. Actually, I was looking forward to playing Wofford in this tournament, and you draw Seton Hall in the first round, a more athletic team, and then if you win and you're the Terriers, you face Kentucky in the second round.
Congrats.
Wow. Okay.
You said that 2 weeks ago. You said, watch Wofford get screwed.
I knew Wofford would get screwed in this bracket, and that's exactly what happened. I thought Wofford should have been a 5 or a 6, and you draw a 7, and this is a tough bracket here. I made Wofford 1.5 against Seton Hall. And I think that's probably going to be about the market number. It's going to be 1.5 or 2.
Yeah,
South Point put up 2?
They put up Wofford -2. But you're right. You go from, if you're the 5 in this region, you get New Mexico State. If you're the 6, you get Ohio State. Instead, you're the 7, and you get Seton Hall. Tough draw.
And then Kentucky.
Yeah, congrats.
Good
Yeah,
luck.
you won? Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Play Kentucky, who we know will pretty easily dispatch Abilene Christian.
Well, that's what the NCAA committee wants to do every year, is wipe out all the mid-majors by the Sweet 16.
And Kenny is very, very choked up about
Kenny's
it.
choked up
Choked
over
me
this,
up on that. I was saying I used to love to play the last 4 in. You can't do that anymore because they play each other now,
Right.
which is a shame because those teams always like, yeah, we're the last 4 in. We have something to prove, but really difficult to really bet those teams now. But
no South Point number yet. Kentucky, Abilene Christian, but with a lot of these 116s and 215s, you can pretty much name your score.
yeah, I have a 26.5 point difference there, Sam. I'm going to guess Kentucky like 22, 134.5.
Yeah, I got this number similar to the Virginia line where I got Kentucky at 25. So
they have a couple posted numbers over at Caesars. They have made some numbers on the first 4 games. So they've got Arizona State laying 1 to St. John's. That'll be on Wednesday, March 20th. So the Sun Devils laying 1 with our favorite coach in the country, Bobby Hurley, who I think is still crying about that Oregon loss. And then North Dakota State laying 5 to NC Central. Is a lot of fun.
You know what? That Arizona State St. John's matchup is pretty interesting. For one, Chris Mullen, Kenny, I think as a coach, he just rolls the ball out on the floor and says play.
I think so too.
Yeah, and that entire St. John's offense is just dribble drives and screens and athletic guards driving to the basket. I like Arizona State a little bit in this matchup. Bobby Hurley's going to be complaining to the officials from the whistle till the final buzzer. It's going to be nonstop. And Chris Mullen is not a big complainer. He just kind of walks up and down the sideline like he doesn't give a damn. Interesting matchup. St. John's just got destroyed last week. By Marquette.
At home, basically.
Yeah. I like Arizona State a little here. I make Arizona State 2.
All right, 2 other matchups. These are from Caesars, Matt Lindeman and Jeff Davis, the first to throw up the first 4 games. So they've got Belmont laying 2 to Temple. And they also have Prairie View laying 1.5 to Fairleigh Dickinson. So those are your numbers on the first 4 games on the 19th and the 20th.
I got Fairleigh Dickinson the favorite, 1.5. They have Prairie View the favorite?
They have them, 1.5. Okay. Prairie View laying 1.5. How about Belmont Temple? What do you have Belmont Temple?
Belmont, I made 1. That's a terrible matchup for both teams because I like both of these teams. And I'm so glad the tournament committee gave Belmont the chance here. They're a good basketball team. They deserve to be in the field.
That's one thing positive I'll say about the committee. You put in Belmont. I think a lot of us assumed the Bruins would get screwed and left out of the straw, so it's good to see Belmont in a winnable game. I've got Belmont 1.5.
So Gonzaga's the 1 in the West. The 4 number 1 seeds, you have Duke, Virginia, Carolina, and Gonzaga. Now, they'll play the winner of one of the 16-16 matchups. So let's skip down to the 8-9. Syracuse and Baylor. And the guys at the South Point just put a number on this game. They have Syracuse laying 1 in Salt Lake City against Baylor.
I don't disagree with that. I make Syracuse a slight favorite too, but it's somewhere around 1 or 2.
A lot has to do with Mekhi Mason's health.
I know. If Mekhi Mason doesn't play, you got to like Syracuse.
Yeah, I agree. I like Syracuse. But then again, Tyus Battle may not play for Syracuse. This was the most bizarre thing.
I think Battle's going to play. He was close to coming back in the ACC tournament.
Well, no one heard it, but I did. I don't know if I'm the only person that heard this or not. But I think, is it Dan Dockich that does the games?
Yes.
He says, I just text Boeheim and said, is Battle going to play tonight? He texted me back, no chance.
Really?
That was at 12 o'clock. I started telling everybody I knew. The line went from 11.5 to 12, and it sat at 12 for 5 hours. The lineups came out, and then 2 minutes before the game started, Don Best sent an alert, Tyus Battle's not in the starting lineup.
13.5.
The line went from 12 to 13.5, and it landed 12.
Well, remember we had Jastrzemski from the Fan on here. He had his little Syracuse get up on, and he said Tyus Battle is not playing.
Right.
And at that point, you're right, Kenny, it was still 11 or 11.5.
Yeah.
And that was at 1 o'clock Pacific time. So, yeah, the fact that didn't – hey, it's all about integrity.
And it's nice to have you can take your TV and just rewind and see what he said because I was working and I didn't – what did he just say? I rewound it and he goes, he just texted Jimmy Boeheim and Boeheim sent it back. There's no chance he's going to play
here's
tonight.
a quote from Jim Boeheim yesterday on Tyus Battle's back injury. He's close. Boeheim said he's hopeful to have him back for practice on Monday. So.
All right, Caesars has a number on Kentucky, Abilene Christian. They just put up 21.5. I know Lindemann would be quick to put up a number on that Kentucky game. So
21.5?
21.5 is what he put
That's
down.
a low number.
Yeah. So here we go on to the 5-12 matchup. Nothing in Vegas yet on Marquette and Murray State. This is the 5-12 matchup here.
That's a very interesting. You got Marcus Howard against Ja Morant. I like that matchup. Murray State, Marquette. Wow, I'm going to go Marquette 3. What do you got?
Ooh. I have an 8.5-point difference in their power rating, so I'm laying 5.5 or less. I think you're going to see 6 in the game, 5.5 or 6. I'd be shocked if you saw any lower than that.
Marquette's another team that really faded down the stretch. Aside from that blowout win over St. John's, this team
they lost 4 in a row.
Yeah, it was not playing well at all at the end of the season.
And they lost 4 in a row, and then they finally came out. They came out and they hung a number on St. John's, which is a good point for you making a point against St. John's against Arizona State. St. John's gets blown out by a team who's not playing well.
So the winner of Marquette and Murray State will face the winner of Florida State and Vermont. Bunch of seniors on both sides of the floor. Florida State 27-7, Vermont 27-6. The game is in Hartford. Seminoles minus what?
Hartford.
Big number.
It's at Hartford?
Yes.
Yep. Oh my, that's home. That's a home edge.
That sure helps Vermont.
That is home court advantage. Everyone in Hartford will be rooting for Vermont. I'm going to say Florida State 11.5, 128.5.
I got Florida State 12.5, but I like Vermont a little bit, especially since we're talking about this game being in Hartford.
Yeah.
Yes.
On to the 6. Well, Buffalo is the 6, and they're going to face the winner of a play-in game. So we'll go on to the Texas Tech Red Raiders. They're going to be the 3. This game is very, very close in proximity. Tulsa, Oklahoma is where this game is going to be played. And the South Point actually already has a number on this one. Texas Tech minus 13.
I've got a slightly higher, but I've got a higher rating on Texas Tech, I think, than most people. I've got Tech 14 in this game. Kenny, how about you?
Yeah, I've got them higher too. I got them 18.5,
Really?
and I know the number wouldn't come that high, but I'll lay 13 with Texas Tech. They're one of the best defensive teams in the country. Northern Kentucky's had a nice year. But again, they're from playing in the Horizon League. I think it's going to be a huge uptick in talent.
Oh yeah,
and they're going to struggle against this defense.
Yeah, I went back. I looked at some of those final scores from the Horizon League champs. They lose by 20. They lose by 25.
Yeah.
Drew McDonald's a good player for Northern Kentucky, but you need some help around him, and I don't think they have it this year.
Well, they haven't faced a defense like this, I can guarantee
Well,
that.
they faced, UIC and Green Bay and IUPUI. What do you mean?
Exactly.
The 7-10 and the 2-15, West Region. These games are both in Des Moines. Nevada gets a 7 with the Martin Twins and Jordan Caroline. Nevada gets number 10, Florida. No lines up yet in Vegas here. These games are in Des Moines, Kenny, West Region, bottom bracket.
Yeah, bad draw for Nevada after a great run last year. I think Florida will be the favorite here. 1.5, 127. I like the way Michael White's team's playing, and I think they're the better team.
Yeah, I had a little difficult time here just based on ratings, in my opinion. I've got this either pick or Florida -1. I will not make Nevada the favorite here. I like Florida in the matchup. Jordan Caroline's status, too, is big with this game because he's had an Achilles injury. He did not play in Nevada's loss to San Diego State in the Mountain West tournament. If you take Jordan Caroline off the floor, you definitely make Florida the favorite in this game.
Oh, easily.
It's a little bigger number, too. It's like
Nevada's only got 5 guys.
Yeah,
they have no bench, so he's at least 3 points.
If Caroline doesn't play, Florida is like a 3 or 3.5 point favorite, I think.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah, but if Caroline plays, I still got Florida pick. I'd say pick or Florida -1. I think the reason he did not play in the Mountain West tournament is that Eric Musselman wanted to rest him for this week, so I expect to see Caroline play. But this Nevada team is like a car running on fumes. It's out of
Maybe
gas.
he should have rested some guys during the season when they were up 25 with
agree.
2 minutes to go.
They played 35
He should have
minutes a
taken him out of the game.
Yeah.
Martin Twins are on the floor 35 out of 40.
It's ridiculous.
Every game. And Matt's right. I mean, they're up 10, 3 minutes to go, and they're still chugging along.
I bang on him, but there are probably close to 100 teams in the NCAA right now playing 6 players. These coaches are making so much money, they can't lose. So I'm not playing anybody off the bench. I'm going to play my best players, and I'm going to run them to death.
I was scared to death to go to the bench. You see it all the time. There's at most you have like 7 or 8 man rotations, and that's rare now where you see a coach is willing to play 3 guys off the bench for substantial minutes. Even John Beeline at Michigan has nobody to play off the bench.
No, you're right. He doesn't. It's amazing.
Caesars has spoken first on this game. They just hung Nevada -1.5 against Florida.
I'll take Florida with points.
All right, and then the last game, and I just had to look this up because I thought, wait a minute, didn't these two teams meet in the first round last year? Your 7-10 matchup, or I'm sorry, your 2-15 matchup. We just did 7-10. The 2-15 is Michigan and Montana, and they did meet last year in the tournament. On March 15th, Michigan won 61-47, and Caesars has 17.5 on the Wolverines against Montana in Des Moines.
Yeah, these big number games are not my specialty. I just don't like them at all because, like I said before, some of these teams can name the score, and do they really want to win by 20? I mean, and like we said just seconds ago, these coaches have been playing 5 guys all season long, and in this spot, you get up 18, you're going to start to rest guys in these type of games. You're just not going to bury people. You're not looking to get up and down the court. You're just looking to get the game over with. So, I don't like these. Like, I got Michigan a 22-point favorite. Again, it's one of those games if you said, all right, $1 million, to the winner, but Montana gets 22 to start the game, and Michigan knows they got to cover the 22, they got a good chance they're going to cover the 22, 50% chance. But if we're looking at 14.5, they'd cover that 70% of the time.
Same number that you said last year. I've got Michigan 17 in this game, and like Kenny, I'm not crazy about betting games like this.
All right, when we come back, we will go to the Westgate. But first, they just sent an email across with updated future odds. Duke 9-4. Then you've got Virginia at 6-1. Actually, Gonzaga 9-2. These are sort of out of order here. North Carolina 10-1. Kentucky and Michigan State 12-1. Texas Tech is 18-1. Tennessee is 12-1. And Purdue 30-1. Houston 40-1. A couple other teams 50-60-1. We'll go to the Westgate after this here in the Selection Sunday Special on VSiN.
This is the March to Madness on VSiN. Follow us at vsin.com and listen on SiriusXM channel 204 and on Twitter at VSiN Live. If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
If Arizona takes Kyler Murray, it's going to be interesting to see what they can spin Josh Rosen into from a draft standpoint.
I agree.
Because to me, you're still looking at a guy, and depends on how teams evaluated him last year. That's why I always find it interesting when some of these players, and I go back to Carl Pickens way back in the day when he said, I'm not going to meet with this team because you're not drafting where I'm going to be drafted. I think it's important for these players to meet with these teams because down the line somebody might want to trade for you. And I think a team might look at Rosen, who they had high on their draft board despite his struggles last year, and say, hey, you know what? This is a guy we can pick up for a late first-round pick or an early second. We should take a shot with him.
Let's go back to the original here, the hot goalie picture of Paulie, please.
Yeah.
I want to post this up here quickly. We have it, right? Yeah, there you go. Paul Howard, hot goalie. Look at that. How old are you right here? 20? 16?
20.
What are you, 18? I don't know.
That's junior year of high school.
Oh, junior high school. Okay, all right. I'm getting the years confused here. So before we pull this here, how much do you love Halle Berry?
Oh, I love Halle Berry.
She's a 10, right? On a scale from 1 to 10?
Sure.
Love her. How much do you like tattoos?
What is that?
That's her latest tattoo.
Come on.
Well, you don't like that?
Wow, I like the hair.
Tattoo
what a caboose.
is sexy. Look at that. Now let's go side by side.
Oh, wow.
You think you have a chance?
Get out of here. That guy's dead and buried there.
Hey, look, value is value. And we get to this every week, and we talk about it all during baseball season. But for aspiring sports bettors, again, this is, if you're betting with an edge here, this is, value is value, Dennis. That mean that if somebody asks you, hey, do you think the Canucks are going to win this game? Actually, no. But if we've made this bet 100 times or 1,000 times, it is a plus EV proposition, meaning that you would win it enough for it to be a value bet over the course of that sample size, and so therefore it is a good bet.
A lot of times with these short favorites, Sam, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, I like to just play the money line on the favorites if I like it, and don't play with fire in a situation like this where you can get burned laying 1.5 and win by 1, or laying 2 and win by 1, and it happened if you laid the 2 with Washington yesterday.
And you always say that too when you have -1.5 or -2. On the flip side of that, if you get 1.5 or +2, you're not taking the money line. You're taking every point you can get because you had, was it UNLV against San Diego State last weekend?
+1.5 and lost by 1.
Welcome back to the March to Madness, a daily update on the best of the NCAA tournament. Listen to us on SiriusXM channel 204 and follow us online at vsin.com and on Twitter at vsin live.
More and more numbers popping up on the screen here in Las Vegas. Welcome back to VSiN. It's the Selection Sunday Special. Kenny White, Matt Youmans, Sam Panayotovich. Only the Caesars Palace and South Point Hotel and Casino have posted odds here. And we'll go down to the Westgate momentarily and ask Patrick Everson about why there's some hesitation in a couple of these books, namely the Westgate. But a couple matchups, some notable matchups here. Villanova -4 against St. Mary's. Purdue now laying 12.5 to Old Dominion. Florida State, 9.5-point favorite against Vermont. LSU down to 8, guys. We said Yale was too high at 9.5, 10. They've got it 8, both Caesars and South Point. Some money coming in on Yale so far. Wofford -2 against Seton Hall. Louisville, a 5-point favorite against Minnesota. Nevada, still a 1.5-point favorite against Florida. And then Auburn laying 7 in New Mexico State. Kansas, 8.5 against Northeastern. Syracuse, 1 to 1.5 against Baylor. Those are your games on Thursday. And then your Friday games. VCU 1 against Central Florida. Mississippi down to 1 against Oklahoma. Cincinnati laying 3 to Iowa. Utah State up to 2.5 against Washington, guys. That was 1.
Again, I said earlier, I looked at the last 2 years, favorites and underdogs 50-50. So, I mean, you can't just blindly say, well, I'm going to bet the underdog in this game because it's NCAA tournament time and dogs win. The line separates that. And I even looked at favorites. I broke them down in categories, like 1.5 point categories, and there was nothing. That's the only reason I said the only thing I noticed was there were 5 games in the last 2 years that changed favorites, and that new favorite won 4 to 5 times easily. But 1 to 2.5 point favorites, they were like 10 and 11 or something like that, and big favorites were the same thing. They were 9, 10 and 1 or something like that. So there's no trend for anything like that. You're just trying to match up talent versus talent and figure out who's going to play better. Just remember one thing: this is a new season, and this is new life. And teams who may not have been playing well start to play well. So teams can get hot at the right time.
Well, that's the definition, Matt, of Washington. They completely fell apart down the stretch, and now they're getting 2.5 against Utah State.
Yeah, 2.5 to me, that's too much of an adjustment here. I would have to take the 2.5 with Washington. I know the Huskies really struggled down the stretch. I thought it was a case of they clinched the Pac-12 too soon and, just faded a little bit down the stretch. Like Kenny says, maybe with the blowout loss to Oregon last night here in Vegas, that this team – does start to play much better now with a new life, new season here in the NCAA tournament. I made Washington a 1-point favorite. So if you're going to give me 2.5 with the Huskies, I'll take that right now.
I'm in agreement with you. Has Utah State seen a defense, a zone defense like Washington's? I doubt it because not many teams on the West Coast play that.
And I'll still say this, we could call the Pac-12 the Conference of Chumps.
Yeah,
but they are. The Mountain West was the Mountain Weak.
That's very true, too.
I mean, it was a very weak conference.
Yes, they were. Yeah. They were very weak.
A couple other notables on Friday, and then we go down to the Westgate. Iowa State laying 6 to Ohio State. Mississippi State laying 8 to Liberty. Virginia Tech, and that's assuming that Robinson plays for the Hokies, 10.5 against St. Louis. The threes are gone at the South Point. Wisconsin was -3 against Oregon, but now it's down to 2. And Kansas State only at Caesars right now, laying 5.5 to Cal Irvine. We go back to the Westgate now, tagging Patrick Everson, senior writer, covers.com, at @covers_Vegas. So, Patrick, we're trying to bet over at the Westgate. We have our apps up, but there's nothing available. What's the deal?
They are working diligently on this. They want to put them all up at the same time, I believe is how Derek Wilkinson described it to me. So they're working to get them all into the system and get them up on the board. Obviously, people are certainly eager to get some money down on some of these early numbers where they think there might be advantages. I can tell you that at least on some of these games, I'm getting a little war room chatter about which games are presenting kind of the most debate, the most back and forth as they try to get the numbers up for these games. And Derek Wilkinson told me Arizona State, St. John's, which that's a play-in game, I believe correctly. He said that one's been challenging for them as they debated that one. And along with Nevada, Florida, Iowa, Cincinnati, and Utah State, Washington, as you guys were just talking about earlier. Certainly would love your impressions on what they're trying to settle back there.
No, that's 4 games I think are difficult to decide as well when you're trying to put a number on these, Patrick. Did the guys at the Westgate not care about being the first up? They just wanted to get their numbers right, feel like they get their numbers as accurate as possible before they put them up, because a lot of times we see places right now at the South Point and Caesars Palace, it's like a race to be first up. So the guys at the Westgate didn't care about being first up, right?
No, I don't think they did. And honestly, I talked to a couple of other bookmakers, a couple of other sportsbook operators earlier today who said the same thing. They were like, we used to want to be first and make a big deal out of it, but now we'd rather try to be, a little closer to where they think it's the right spot to be. And it sounds like that's what the Superbook is trying to do right now by getting it all together. And then they're going to load them all up at once, and they're all going to hit the board behind me at the same time. And they should all hit the mobile app at the same time as well. But yeah, it looks like they're not being first is not the higher priority today, although they certainly are working diligently to get them up as quickly as they can.
Yeah, meanwhile, where we're at, right behind us in the book here at the South Point, they're taking 10 dimes on sides, and they're taking 5 across the app, and we're already seeing people walk up to the window here, and these lines are moving. We've seen a couple move about a point and a half, and maybe Westgate just wants to see how the market gets saturated and let the other two fight for it and take it from there. They did, though, Patrick. They sent an email out about futures. Westgate has updated futures, and Duke is still the favorite at 9-4. And of course, these are index bets, so you have to sort of hop around and get them in order. Duke 9-4, Gonzaga 9-2. I see Virginia 6-1. North Carolina 10-1. You've got Kentucky and Michigan State at 12-1. Texas Tech 18-1. Tennessee 12-1. Anything shocking out of that reveal there? I mean, you still have Duke as the big favorite, but anything else really jump out to you?
Well, actually, on Duke, and you may have something that's slightly later than what I had just the last time I checked, which was a little bit ago. But as I reported to you guys an hour ago, Duke was steady at plus 225 throughout the ACC tournament. They didn't move at all off of plus 225, and just 9-4. And then they went down to 2-1 in the last hour or so. I'm not sure if they've gone back up to plus 225, if that's then jumped back up after they went down to 2-1. But last I checked, there was 2-1. So there must have been a little bit of activity on the Blue Devils over the last hour. Once the bracket got out, it looks like maybe some people got interested and maybe thought plus 2.25 was a juicy enough number for right now. But, nothing else there necessarily surprises me, no.
No, I don't think you're going to be shocked when you look at futures prices at this point. And Kenny, I'm not sure your approach to futures. I've got, I think, 5 or 6 in my pocket from the season. Most of them are some pretty good numbers, like Purdue at 100-1, things like that. I'm not really looking to bet futures at this point unless I look at the bracket and I say, hey, that team's got a path where they could get there. I don't have the bracket in front of me. Do you have it?
No, I don't. Okay. I kind of do. I have 4 big brackets right here that you can
partial. Is there anything you see on the brackets where you said that team has got a path that looks pretty good to get to the final four?
I didn't look at it that way, Matt. I really didn't. I wish I did, but no, I don't. And I didn't bet any futures this year. I had so many good ones last year. It's kind of upset that I had some really big prices last year, and my teams got knocked out early. Virginia was one I had 50-1 on, and 110-1 on Cincinnati, and there was several others I had.
How about Michigan State? Their path here in the East region, they're the number 2 seed, assuming they beat Bradley. They get the winner of Louisville, Minnesota, and then potentially the winner of LSU, Maryland. It would be Michigan State and Duke in the regional final.
Yeah, so you actually kind of like that path for Michigan State. The Louisville game, assuming the Cards get by Minnesota, and I think we all have pretty much Louisville a 5-point favorite in that game at this point. That was my number initially. I think that's what the South Points got, right? Yep. Louisville 5?
They got 5.
I think the Cards win that game. Kenny, that was a really tough scheduling spot for the Spartans early in the season. They had just won a tournament, I think the Las Vegas Invitational, and then went to Louisville to play that Big Ten ACC Challenge game on a weeknight. Bad spot for the Spartans. They lost at Louisville, but I've got Michigan State about 6 points better than the Cards on a neutral. You might even have a little.
Yeah, no, I got a little higher even. Yeah. I have 11-point difference.
Okay.
But, this Louisville team has been impressive. I mean, my rating's upgraded, but Tom Izzo, tough to beat in this time of year.
Ask John Beilein about that after what happened again today. Louisville's a strange team to me because it's a team that won by 21 at North Carolina, led Duke by 23 at home, led Virginia by 10 at the half. I think I've got a higher rating on Louisville than most people, but I would not think.
I've had upgraded their rating more than anybody maybe from the beginning of the season till now. Chris Mack's done a really good job.
Looking at Carolina, 12-1. Here's their path. So they get past Iona. Maybe they face Washington or it's Utah State, then Auburn, and then they'd get Kentucky in the regional final. I'm not saying there's value at 10-1, but if you're looking for paths here, in my opinion, the easiest paths to the Final Four are, ironically enough, 2 Final Four teams that are usually in the conversation. That's Duke and that's North Carolina. Duke has a cakewalk into the regional final, and Carolina has a very serviceable path. So, Patrick, when you hear more from the Westgate, when you know when those numbers are going up, when you talk to those guys, please let us know, and we'll bring you back on.
No question. We'll be right back with you guys as soon as they get them rolling out. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Patrick Everson, senior writer at Covers_Vegas and Covers.com, as we now have the brackets in front of us here.
I'm going to say the Wahoos might actually have a nice little path here. Virginia plays Gardner-Webb. Then they got Mississippi or Oklahoma, 2 teams. Either one of those, I think they handle easily, and they're going to be at least a 15-point favorite. Wisconsin is, as I said, I very well coached. Greg Gard's done a great job. Something about him I don't like the last 2 times I've watched him. Kansas State without Dean Wade. Mm-hmm. I think Virginia could handle either one of those 2 teams. They're too good offensively and defensively.
Actually, I agree with you now. Looking at this South bracket with Kansas State the 4, Virginia and K-State in that top half of the bracket. K-State without Dean Wade is not the same team, not even close.
No.
I think Oregon is dangerous in that half, obviously, the way the Ducks are playing, but that's a 12 seed. In the bottom half of the bracket, you've got Tennessee as the 2, and Purdue is the 3.
Yeah.
And I really don't like either of those teams a whole lot. So I think you're right, Kenny. Virginia seems to have a pretty good path to the Final Four.
Kenny, are you expecting Tyus Battle to be good to go for Cuse?
I don't know. I am. It's a hip injury.
Well, I just said I read the story here that's posted earlier today where Jim Boeheim says he's plans to have him back at practice on Monday, and I just see a quote from Tyus Battle. He says he is going to play he's going to play in the first round game.
Right. I mean, the players always say that, right?
When I heard that against Duke, that he texted back, Dak, no shot. He's got no chance of playing tonight. I thought he must really be hurt. I mean, that's got to. And hip injuries are tough to overcome. No doubt. You don't heal like in 1 week or 2 weeks in a bad hip injury.
I'm just saying the quote from Battle right here is, "I'm close to 100%. There's no doubt I'm playing this week."
Well,
that's
he might have
basically his quote.
He might have been close to playing against Duke. They knew they were going to be in the NCAA tournament. Why risk it? And we'll have you ready for the NCAA tournament.
The reason I asked is because it was opened up in Vegas, Cuse -1, and now it's 1.5 at one book and 2 at the other. So that's one of the moves that has happened. In the
guy averages 17.5, 18 a game. He averaged close to 19 or 20 last year. He's their best scorer. They just don't have much more than him and Frank Howard. That's it.
Here comes the Wind putting up some numbers.
Buddy Boeheim.
Arizona, Buddy Boeheim.
The freshman, Buddy Boeheim.
He hit
really
some 30-foot bombs in that game against Duke, yeah.
So the Wind's got numbers on Arizona State, St. John's. They just hung a 2, and they also hung a 5 on North Dakota State and NC Central.
I assume they made Arizona State a 2-point favorite.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And they also have Belmont laying 3 to Temple, and they've got a pick 'em between Fairleigh Dickinson and Prairie View. So Caesars and South Point sort of going back and forth. And here comes the Win into the party. Nothing yet. Westgate, Golden Nugget stations. Nothing at William Hill. Here's another move from where it opened to where it is. Kenny, Villanova opened -5, 5.5. South Point's got Villanova now -4 against St. Mary's.
Very interesting. St. Mary's is getting a lot of credit for one win. It's a team that does not play very good defense. They play very slow. Villanova, I wouldn't want to go against Jay Wright. This guy can, been there, done that, knows what he's doing, got a very talented team. They just don't play the same type of defense they've played in the last couple of years, but they still can light it up on offense.
Interesting matchup, too, because St. Mary's wants to play at such a slow pace, one of the slowest paced teams in Division I. I was shocked, Kenny, in the West Coast Conference tournament that Mark Few did nothing to try to speed up that game.
It drives me crazy.
He let St. Mary's dictate the pace for the first 35 minutes, and then in the last 5 minutes, I guess we better start trapping and try to speed these guys up and get back in the game. Why did he wait that long? But the thing is, Villanova's not a team that plays fast either. This Villanova team likes to launch a lot of threes, but they don't play exceptionally fast.
Yeah, no, that's why Villanova, I think, is comfortable in a slowdown or up tempo. They can run.
They can.
They work for a good shot. They got a great offense. And both teams play slow and methodical. They get good shots, and they both knock down their shots. They both shoot threes well too.
I actually think it might be a decent spot to play against St. Mary's off the Gonzaga win. I think the Gales probably getting a little bit too much credit for what happened that night. I made the number Villanova 5. I thought I might be a little bit.
I've only got it 4.5, so I'm not going to be rushing to bet Villanova. But if we get it a little bit lower, maybe I might bet Villanova.
We are halfway home on the Selection Sunday special here, the March to Madness on VSiN. Kenny White, Matt Youmans, Sam Panayotovich coming up later on the show. Richie Baccellieri and Chris Andrews from here at the South Point.
This is the March to Madness on VSiN. Follow us at vsin.com and listen on SiriusXM channel 204 and on Twitter at VSiN Live. If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
If Arizona takes Kyler Murray, it's going to be interesting to see what they can spin Josh Rosen into from a draft standpoint.
I agree.
Because to me, you're still looking at a guy, and depends on how teams evaluated him last year. That's why I always find it interesting when some of these players, and I go back to Carl Pickens way back in the day when he said, I'm not going to meet with this team because you're not drafting where I'm going to be drafted. I think it's important for these players to meet with these teams because down the line somebody might want to trade for you. And I think a team might look at Rosen, who they had high on their draft board despite his struggles last year, and say, hey, you know what? This is a guy we can pick up for a late first-round pick or an early second. We should take a shot with him.
Let's go back to the original here, the hot goalie picture of Paulie, please.
Yeah.
I want to post this up here quickly. We have it, right? Yeah, there you go. Paul Howard, hot goalie. Look at that. How old are you right here? 20? 9 to 16.
20,
What are
20.
you, 18? I don't know.
That's junior year of high school.
Oh, junior high school. Okay, all right.
I'm 17.
I'm getting the years confused here. So before we pull this here, how much do you love Halle Berry?
Oh, I love Halle Berry.
She's a 10, right? On a scale from 1 to 10?
Sure.
Love her. How much do you like tattoos?
What is that?
That's her latest tattoo.
Come on.
What, you don't like that?
Wow, I like the hair.
Tattoo
What a caboose.
is sexy. Look at that. Now let's go side by side.
Oh, wow.
You think you have a chance?
Get out of here. That guy's dead and buried there.
Hey, look, value is value. This is, and we get to this every week, and we talk about it all during baseball season. But for aspiring sports bettors, again, this is if you're betting with an edge here, this is value is value. Does that mean that if somebody asks you, hey, do you think the Canucks are going to win this game? Actually, no. But if we made this bet 100 times or 1,000 times, it is a plus EV proposition, meaning that you would win it enough for it to be a value bet over the course of that sample size, and so therefore it is a good bet.
A lot of times with these short favorites, Sam, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, I like to just play the money line on the favorites if I like it, and don't play with fire in a situation like this where you can get burned laying 1.5 and win by 1, or laying 2 and win by 1, and it happened if you laid the 2 with Washington yesterday.
And you always say that too when you have -1.5 or -2. On the flip side of that, if you get 1.5 or +2, you're not taking the money line. You're taking every point you can get because you had, was it UNLV against San Diego State last weekend?
+1.5 and lost by 1.
Welcome back to the March to Madness, a daily update on the best of the NCAA tournament. Listen to us on SiriusXM channel 204 and follow us online at vsin.com and on Twitter at vsinlive.
Second half of the Selection Sunday special, the March to Madness on VSiN, 4:35 here in Las Vegas and 7:35 out east. The brackets are in and the lines are out here in Las Vegas. Kenny White, Matt Youmans, Sam Panayotovich will be joined. We hope to be joined by Paul Stone, a professional bettor here in the next hour and a half.
I just talked to Paul Stone a couple minutes ago, so he's going to join us here in studio. He says he's fired 5 bets so far, but he's not finished. So when Paul stops firing, he'll jump in here in studio with us.
Whenever he runs out of ammo, he'll join us on the set. And then also we hope to talk to Richie Baccellieri, longtime Vegas bookmaker, on making the lines with Chris Andrews and Vinny Magliulo. So that'll be coming up. We're on until 6 o'clock Pacific and 9 o'clock on the East Coast. So there's been a lot of moving parts on the show. And here come the Westgate numbers. Bang, on the screen. Red all the way down the board. So they just posted all their Thursday games, and I imagine the Friday games will soon follow. But let's just go. If we're looking at the bracket here, we'll take the left side of the bracket and go down from east to west. We'll start top left. No number on Duke because they play a play-in game. They play the winner of North Carolina Central and North Dakota State. That number, by the way, is the Bison -4.5. But the 8-9 in Columbia in the East region, you've got VCU laying 1 to Central Florida. That's the 8-9 in the East region.
All right, I had 1.5 on this, but Kenny, we have a question about one of the Rams' top players. So how does that change your view of this game?
Yeah, they fell apart too. I can't think of his first name. Evans.
VCU lost in the quarterfinals.
Marcus Evans. Yeah, he's their point guard. He does it all for this team, and he's their leader. They're pretty deep though. VCU's a deep team, but they could not overcome him off the court, and he's worth about 3.5 points. I made Central Florida a half. And I'll make them 4 if Evans doesn't play, and I'll be rooting for taco salad.
So the Richmond Times-Dispatch has said the following. VCU's Marcus Evans has no structural damage in his knee, and he is expected to play in the tournament.
Well, based on that, I've got VCU -1.5. I think that's – Kenny, would you change your number at all?
No, I got Central Florida a half, so I'll be rooting for Taco Falls.
7-7.
7-7.
7-7?
7-7.
7-6.
At that point, he's just tall, right? At that point.
He's actually 7'5" when he's not in shoes.
He was 7'6" in flats.
He's 7'8" in heels. Mississippi State and Liberty. This is the 5-12 in the East. And depending on where you shop around here, I've seen a couple 8.5s. South Point has Mississippi State -8 against the number 12 seeded Liberty.
Yeah, I don't like Mississippi State a lot, and I think just based on raw numbers, I had Mississippi State -11, but I would not make it that high because I kind of like Liberty in the game.
Yeah,
getting a decent amount of points. So, yeah, I think 8.5 is probably the right spot to put it. What about you?
Yeah, I have a 13-point difference in power ratings between the two teams, but I'm not interested in laying points with Ben Howland. This is, he's an offensive guy. He's never had a great defensive basketball teams. And And Liberty plays at such a slow pace that they could lull Mississippi State to sleep in this game.
How about the next game? You look at what Virginia Tech is laying to St. Louis, and I have the board up here. It is 10.5 at Caesars, 10.5 at South Point. The Hokies favored against the Billikens.
Yeah, when I went back through this, I got Virginia Tech 9.5, so just a little bit shorter. Kenny?
I have Virginia Tech 15.5. I really like this basketball team. I'm just looking right now. Their last 6 losses have been by a top 30 team or better. 5 of those 6 losses came by a team ranked 15 or better.
I think Tech is a fully healthy team right now.
Yeah,
too,
Justin
right?
Robinson's coming back.
Right.
That's key because they've been playing with 5-6 players. Now they'll have 7 guys. But Justin Robinson, their second best scorer. So they're getting another scorer back in this lineup. Ken Palm's got him number 8 in the country, 39.4% in 3-pointers. This team can really shoot. They can defend. St. Louis just doesn't have a lot of scoring.
Yeah,
Virginia Tech, by the way, was number 10 in the NCAA's net rankings, so a lot of respect for the Hokies.
So you got number 10 against number 104, basically.
Right.
Yeah, and you're laying only 10.5. I imagine that one will climb as the week gets going. How about LSU and Yale? This is the 3-14 matchup in the East, and this number, I saw a Global Shop open it up at 10. They opened it up about 9.5 in Vegas, and now I'm staring at the screen. 7.5, Caesars, South Point, and Westgate. A lot of money coming in.
Yeah, I'm really
Yale.
disappointed here. This is going to be one of my best bets. And there was one point during this show, 9 was out there, right?
There was a 10 globally.
Okay, but I didn't have access to that, so I couldn't bet it. I was trying to bet on an app, and I couldn't get the best number. So now it's down to 7.5. But I think Yale's going to give LSU all it can handle in this spot here. And I think the Will Wade situation, Kenny, is going to be a big distraction for LSU. I've been looking to fade LSU since the Will Wade controversy.
I faded him and used that as an excuse why I was fading him. And, you asked me earlier what I think it's worth. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth much because they've been playing all season long together as a team. Yale played Duke earlier this year at Duke. They lost by 33, 91-58. I know LSU's not as good as Duke, but they're really stepping up in class. I know they got an NBA player. Oni's a guy that NBA scouts have been flocking to watch this kid play. But I'm going to bet the game over is where I'm going to be at in this game because Yale loves to run and they're extremely solid on offense. They shoot the 3 really well, but they have a hard time stopping good teams from scoring as well.
So Tony Bedford is the interim coach at LSU, and once North Texas, he was the head coach at North Texas in the early 2010s.
Bet against him.
Here are his win totals when they were in Conference USA. Tony Bedford's first year in Conference USA, 16 wins, then 14, then 12, then 8.
This is the best team he's ever had in his life.
Correct, but I don't think he's the greatest as far as making adjustments. And I think the numbers
he's a bet against coach.
Speak for themselves. How about Louisville and Minnesota? This will be a game on Thursday, the 21st, and this opened up about 5, but now Westgate and William Hill have 4.5. Louisville favored against Minnesota.
Well, Sam, you and I were in here last week and about fell off my chair when I saw Minnesota was favored by 10, or Minnesota was getting 10.5 against Purdue. Amir Coffey has played great here down the stretch. You got Jordan Murphy, who's a double-double guy. I like this Minnesota team. They match up well against Louisville because they have size at pretty much every position. Not great size inside, but Jordan Murphy plays a lot bigger than a guy who's 6'6". I just like this Louisville team much more. Chris Mack, like Kenny said, I think he's done one of the best jobs in the country this year, his first year. I've got a higher rating on Louisville than I think most people do. I made this game 5, but I do lean to the Cards here. Minnesota had a couple big wins against Purdue late in the season, but like I said, I had downgraded Purdue quite a bit, so I don't put as much emphasis on those 2 upsets by the Gophers.
Chris Mack or Richard Pitino? Which one do you want?
Chris Mack, easily.
So we know there's a coaching edge. Louisville, I was just looking at their schedule.
You think Rick Pitino wants his kid to beat Louisville? How about that storyline with this game? Huh? How about that storyline?
I just hope the old man's in the white suit with the red tie. That's all I hope.
And the president of Louisville is telling Chris Mack, whatever it takes to win this game, win this game.
Who's Papa John rooting
this
for?
This is, Louisville's 20-13. 7 of their losses are to a top 10 team.
Yeah.
Played a tremendous schedule. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Total of 4 losses to Virginia, North Carolina, and Duke, and easily could have won 2 of those games, if not 3.
The 2:15 in the East as we wrap up this region and then go down to the West region. Michigan State against Bradley. By the way, a lot of bad pub this week. You see Bradley tried to ban the longtime beat writer because he wasn't pro Bradley. Okay, that's not the sort of luster you want heading into the tournament. You want the the feel good story, and now Bradley has a lot of shade thrown their way. But Kenny, you said this could be 19, it could be 25, it could Michigan State could name their score. Vegas says the number's either 19.5 or 20 with Sparty.
Bradley doesn't belong in the tournament. First of all, they're not a tournament team. It's a really weak basketball team. They just got hot at the right time, and they beat 3 really average teams. I mean, this conference, Missouri Valley Conference, is down this year.
Really down.
To look at where these teams are ranked, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, do not think that because Loyola did it last year, Bradley can do it this year.
No
do
shot.
not jump to conclusions.
Loyola had a really good team. This Bradley team comes nowhere near what that Loyola team was. So this is a blowout. Michigan State blows them out.
I've got Michigan State 23, I think. Now that I look at this again, Michigan State 23. But again, I'm with Kenny. I'm not crazy about these games with big numbers.
I don't like them.
A lot of unpredictable factors, and then whether or not you're going to be able to cover a big number like this. Tom Izzo, if you're up big like that, why would you leave your starters on the floor to protect the margin of victory?
The only thing Bradley does well, they actually shoot threes.
Yeah.
Decent, but they don't shoot enough of them.
I think they'll get killed on the boards in this game, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, they don't have any size, and they also play at a snail's pace. And when you look at some of these totals, and that's a lot of the Mo Valley games, what would you make the total? If it's in the 118, 120 range, this could be.
I made it 131.
Oh, I think that's way too high. I think this could be 70 to 45.
I don't think they can stop Michigan State, and they can shoot the three a little bit. So,
okay,
I just don't think they can stop Michigan State from scoring.
74-52. 126.
126.
I like under 131 for sure, and I haven't made many.
I'm probably going over the 126, but the thing that scares me about a game like that is can Bradley score against Michigan State? You got 52. I'm hoping they get to 60.
And I don't think there's going to be overtime in this game. So
no overtime, no overtime, and no fouling late. No overtime and no fouling late in a game like this. So it's actually a game if you like under, you might. You're better off playing the game under than playing a first half under.
So Syracuse and Baylor, and we have talked about this over the last hour and a half or so. So Tyus Battle expected to play in this game, and I think that has really affected the point spread because it was opened up here in Vegas. Syracuse -1. I now see a couple 1.5s. I also see some 2s. And I see a 2.5 in the global market.
I
so
like
money
Syracuse.
coming on Cuse.
I made Syracuse 2. I assume Battle's going to play. We don't know about Mekhi Mason for Baylor, but I lean Syracuse even at -2 in this game, Kenny.
Yeah, I would lean to Syracuse because of that zone defense. Baylor has probably seen nothing like that all season long, and it's going to be a learning curve for them, and they're not a very good outside shooting team. Baylor lives on the offensive boards. Don't think they're going to get many second chances against Syracuse.
That's the 8-9. On to the 5-12 in the West region. You're looking at Marquette and Murray State. This game will be in Hartford, Connecticut, so it's a hike for both squads. Marquette laying 4, according to the South Point, and I'm looking William Hill has 4.5. Caesars has 4. CG has 4.
Yeah, I initially said 3. I looked at this. I said, all right, I could go 3.5 or 4. So I think my initial number was a little bit low. But this is going to be one of those matchups going to be highlighted by the media all week because you got Marcus Howard against Ja Morant. But I downgraded Marquette late in the season. I think Marcus Howard started to wear down, sort of like Carson Edwards at Purdue. I would say 4 is probably fair as the right number. Kenny, what do you have?
I'm probably
going to have this higher.
Yeah, I made it 8.5, and I'll be laying the 4. Like I said, this is a new season. This is a really good Marquette team. They battled Villanova all year, and they had some bad games. They did, but they're a better team here. John Morant's a great player. It should be a great matchup. It's definitely going to be a game. I'll be betting more on the over than I will on Marquette, though.
It looks like this next game is the biggest mover so far because it was opened up. South Point opened up Florida State -9. I see 11 now. 11 South Point, 11 Westgate, 11 Caesars. Florida State laying the number here against Vermont. But remember, it is in Hartford, Connecticut, very close in proximity to where the Catamounts
and we think
home.
that's a big deal. I mean, it's that's an edge for the Catamounts. I'm looking at the screen. I see William Hill at 10.5 on this game. Like you said, South Point at 11. My initial number on this was Florida State 12.5, but I don't like Florida State in this game, especially at Hartford. I would lean to the Vermont side.
I have a 16-point difference in talent between the two teams, but playing in Hartford, I definitely think that's worth 3 full points. Coming out of the ACC tournament, Florida State, I think, is a little bit of a letdown. Playing at Vermont, I can see that's worth a couple points. I think the game should be 10, 10.5 in that range, and it wouldn't surprise me if Vermont was closer than that, because it's going to be a low-scoring game. Vermont plays very slow, and the strength of this team this year is their defense.
So we don't have a pairing yet. We know Buffalo is the 6th. They will play the winner of Arizona State and St. John's, and that number moving to the Arizona State side. Actually, now it's back to 1. So it got to 2, now it's 1.
Buffalo's good.
Buffalo, very good. Arizona State, Youmans, they were 2. Now it's down to 1 and a pick 'em at William Hill.
You know what? This sets up, too, the winner of Arizona State St. John's, and I've got Arizona State -2. I like Arizona State in the matchup. How about the second round, or actually it would be a first-round matchup, Kenny? Bobby Hurley against Buffalo, the team he used to coach.
Right. That thought came to mind, and then I said, wait a minute, Dan Hurley's at Connecticut, so this can't be Hurley versus Hurley. But you're right. That's where he did start. He started out at Buffalo. Did a well enough job there, though, that the program's continued on. I'm looking up the guy's name that's there.
Nate Oates.
Nate Oates has done a tremendous job. This is when you talk about teams with a chance to win, they say they got to be ranked in the top 20 offensively and defensively. Only one team in the last 20 years has won the national title that didn't have an offense and defense ranked both in the top 20. Buffalo's offense is 19, and their defense is 29.
Yeah.
I mean, they're right there. If they put together 3 good defensive games in the tournament, they will be ranked top 20 in both categories. This is a team that actually could make a run. Buffalo could be this year's Loyola Chicago.
When we come back, we'll close out the West region. Kenny White, Matt Youmans, Sam Panayotovich here on VSiN. It's the Selection Sunday special.
This is the March to Madness on VSiN. Follow us at vsin.com and listen on SiriusXM channel 204 and on Twitter at VSiN Live. If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
If Arizona takes Kyler Murray, it's going to be interesting to see what they can spin Josh Rosen into from a draft standpoint.
I agree.
Because to me, you're still looking at a guy, and depends on how teams evaluated him last year. That's why I always find it interesting when some of these players, and I go back to Carl Pickens way back in the day when he said, I'm not going to meet with this team because you're not drafting where I'm going to be drafted. I think it's important for these players to meet with these teams because down the line somebody might want to trade for you. And I think a team might look at Rosen, who they had high on their draft board despite his struggles last year, and say, hey, you know what? This is a guy we can pick up for a late first-round pick or an early second. We should take a shot with him.
Let's go back to the original here, the hot goalie picture of Paulie, please.
Yeah.
I want to post this up here quickly. We have it, right? Yeah, there you go. Paul Howard, hot goalie. Look at that. How old are you right here? 20? 16?
20.
What are you, 18? I don't know.
That's junior year of high school.
Oh, junior high school. Okay, all right.
I'm 17.
I'm getting the years confused here. So before we pull this here, how much do you love Halle Berry?
Oh, I love Halle Berry.
She's a 10, right? On a scale from 1 to 10?
Sure.
Love her. How much do you like tattoos?
What is that?
That's her latest tattoo.
Come on.
Well, you don't like that?
Wow, I like the hair.
Tattoo
What a caboose.
is sexy. Look at that. Now let's go side by side.
Oh, wow.
You think you have a chance?
Get out of here. That guy's dead and buried there.
Hey, look, value is value. And we get to this every week, and we talk about it all during baseball season. But for aspiring sports bettors, again, this is, if you're betting with an edge here, this is, value is value. Does that mean that if somebody asks you, hey, do you think the Canucks are going to win this game? Actually, no. But if we've made this bet 100 times or 1,000 times, it is a plus EV proposition, meaning that you would win it enough for it to be a value bet over the course of that sample size, and so therefore it is a good bet.
A lot of times with these short favorites, Sam, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, I like to just play the money line on the favorites if I like it, and don't play with fire in a situation like this where you can get burned laying 1.5 and win by 1, or laying 2 and win by 1, and it happened if you laid the 2 with Washington yesterday.
And you always say that too when you have -1.5 or -2. On the flip side of that, if you get 1.5 or +2, you're not taking the money line. You're taking every point you can get because you had, was it UNLV against San Diego State last weekend?
+1.5 and lost by 1.
Welcome back to the March to Madness, a daily update on the best of the NCAA tournament. Listen to us on SiriusXM channel 204 and follow us online at vsin.com and on Twitter at vsin live.
4:52 here on VSiN, the Selection Sunday Special, the March to Madness. Kenny White, Matt Youmans, Sam Panayotovich. We do know that we will have Patrick Everson one more time from the Westgate. That'll be at 5:15. And then Richie Baccellieri and Vinny Magliulo from the South Point. That'll be at 5:30. And we hope to squeeze Paul Stone at some point in the final hour here on the show. So let's wrap it up, guys, with the West region. We have 3 more matchups that we haven't discussed yet. Texas Tech and Northern Kentucky. This number opened 14. I see 14.5 at the win, and now 15, South Point and Westgate. We don't really respect the Horizon League. I used to cover the Horizon League. These teams get in, they get drilled. Number opened 14, and now we're seeing some 15.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I said initially my number on this was 14, but Northern Kentucky has not faced a defense like Texas Tech. Top 5 in defensive efficiency. Like I said, Northern Kentucky comes from a weak conference. I think this is too big of a step up here, so I would lay the 14 before I would take it, so I'm not surprised this number is starting to tick up. Kenny, what'd you make this?
I made it. I made it
Tech a little higher.
Yeah, 18.5, and coming off a bad loss to West Virginia might have woken up Chris Beard's team a little bit here because their defense is special. He's a great defensive coach, teaches it really well. And you mentioned Northern Kentucky; they're gonna have problems scoring against this D.
Nevada and Florida. Surprise, surprise. Nevada still climbing here. Open 1, now 2.5. Painted 2.5 across the board in Las Vegas. 2.5 at every single book that has this available. We like Florida. That's what it sounds like. I like Florida. I like Mike White a whole lot. I love their guard play. But Nevada getting the money from 1 to 1.5 to 2, now 2.5.
This is going to be a wild game, you can guarantee it. Both these teams have experience with big comebacks or blowing leads. I will play Florida in this game. Jordan Caroline's status is a big question mark here. He's got the Achilles injury. He did not play in the Mountain West tournament in the loss to San Diego State. Assuming Carolina's healthy, I still have got, let's see, in this game, I had Florida, I had Nevada a 1-point favorite, right around the pick'em range, okay? Assuming that Caroline's going to play. If he doesn't play, I had Florida a 3-point favorite. So I would lean getting this is probably going to be a game I play. I'll play Florida in the first half and the game, split it up because Nevada's been such a slow starting, poor first half team. I am going to look to play Florida in this matchup against Nevada.
Sammy put me on Florida February 9th. He texted me Florida today. They're playing Tennessee. I looked the game over, and I think we took 3.5 at home. And
we were up the whole way.
Florida was in the game, could have won the game. They should have won the game, and they lost by 12. It was such a deceiving
Totally
final.
fell apart in the last couple minutes.
Last 30 seconds, maybe. I think within a minute they had a shot to win the game.
They were down 5 with like 3 minutes to go and lost by 12.
No, I'm telling they might only been down 4 with a minute to go, but it just it just jumped so fast. They were impressive to me though. They went on a nice run right after that. They played well in the conference tournament. I think I made Florida 1.5 here. I do have to look at Nevada's rating, though. I didn't know Caroline missed that San Diego State game, so my computer may not have that in there. I may have knocked Reno for that, and it really shouldn't because they're a 6-man team. But again, if he doesn't play here, he is a 3-point guy, and I will make Florida higher, and I'll be on Florida in this game.
Last game, we have less than a minute here. This is the 2:15 game in the West region, and it's a rematch of a game that we saw last year in the first round. Michigan and Montana in Des Moines. Matt, Michigan open minus 14.5, and I'm looking at the screen here. 16 across the board, 16.5 at CG already.
Not surprised. Actually, I had 17 written down for Michigan. Kenny?
I think Michigan's got as much interest as Zampecky has in getting locked up, by the police. So.
You said they could name their score, but if they knew they were laying 16 and they got
I know, but they're
out.
playing the same team they played last year. They just lost to Michigan State. They put everything into that game. They lost to their biggest rival for the 3rd time. They know they're going to win this game. If they're going to have a dud, it might be this one.
It might be a little bit flat, coming off the Michigan State loss. A 3rd time you've blown a second-half lead against the Spartans, and you're facing a team you faced last year. I think it might be a little bit tough for John Beilein to motivate the Michigan team here.
All right, 2 hours down, 1 to go here on the March to Madness, the Selection Sunday special.
This is the March to Madness on VSiN. Follow us at vsin.com and listen on SiriusXM channel 204 and on Twitter at VSiN Live. You didn't catch VSiN last week. Here's some of what you missed.
If Arizona takes Kyler Murray, it's going to be interesting to see what they can spin Josh Rosen into from a draft standpoint.
I agree.
Because to me, you're still looking at a guy, and depends on how teams evaluated him last year. That's why I always find it interesting when some of these players, and I go back to Carl Pickens way back in the day when he said, I'm not going to meet with this team because you're not drafting, where I'm going to be drafted. I think it's important for these players to meet with these teams because down the line somebody might want to trade for you. And I think a team might look at Rosen, who they had high on their draft board despite his struggles last year, and say, hey, you know what? This is a guy we can pick up for a late first-round pick or an early second. We should take a shot with him.
Let's go back to the original here, the hot goalie picture of Paulie, please.
Yeah.
I want to post this up here quickly. We have it, right? Yeah, there you go. Paul Howard, hot goalie. Look at that. How old are you right here? 20? 16?
20.
What are you, 18? I don't know.
That's junior year of high school.
Oh, junior high school. Okay, all right. I'm getting the years confused here. So before we pull this here, how much do you love Halle Berry?
Oh, I love Halle Berry.
She's a 10, right? On a scale from 1 to 10?
Sure.
Love her. How much do you like tattoos?
What is that?
That's her latest tattoo.
Come on.
What, you don't like that?
Wow, I like the hair.
Tattoo
What a caboose.
is sexy. Look at that. Now let's go side by side.
Oh, wow.
You think you have a chance?
Get out of here. That guy's dead and buried there.
Hey, look, value is value. This is, and we get to this every week, and we talk about it all during baseball season. But for aspiring sports bettors, again, this is if you're betting with an edge here, this is value is value. Does that mean that if somebody asks you, hey, do you think the Canucks are going to win this game? Actually, no. But if we've made this bet 100 times or 1,000 times, it is a plus EV proposition, meaning that you would win it enough for it to be a value bet over the course of that sample size, and so therefore it is a good bet.
A lot of times with these short favorites, Sam, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, I like to just play the money line on the favorites if I like it, and don't play with fire in a situation like this where you can get burned laying 1.5 and win by 1, or laying 2 and win by 1. And it happened if you laid the 2 with Washington yesterday.
And you always say that too when you have -1.5 or -2. On the flip side of that, if you get 1.5 or +2, you're not taking the money line. You're taking every point you can get because you had, was it UNLV against San Diego State last weekend?
+1.5 and lost by 1.
Welcome to the March to Madness, a daily rundown of the wonderful craziness that is the NCAA tournament, one of the most unique events in sports. From the powerhouses to the Cinderellas, the tournament has it all and will keep you up to speed on all of it. And now, the March to Madness.
Welcome back. Hour number 3 on the Selection Sunday special on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. The March to Madness. Kenny White, Matt Youmans, and Sam Panayotovich. And you should know, if you're coming to Las Vegas for the Madness, you can always get some friendly betting advice from VSiN. But if you come in person to the South Point Hotel, Betting and Buds with Brent. Betting and Buds, which will be 5:30 to 6:30 here at the South Point with Chris Andrews, Vinny Magliulo, Brendan Gaughan, and Mike Palm. VSiN's full team of experts will break down the teams, the lines, and the bracket, and we'll take questions, tape the show for broadcasts on VSiN. $1 Bud brands available for 3 hours. $1 beers for 3 hours in the Grandview Lounge here at the South Point. It's Betting and Buds with Brent, Wednesday, March 20th, live at the South Point from 5:30 to 6:30. We will go down to the Westgate and check in with Patrick Everson momentarily, but I think we have to look at a couple of these discrepancies here. You've got a couple games, like, for example, Michigan State is 19 at the South Point, 20 at the William Hill Shop. But aside from maybe the occasional half point, Matt, there's really not much of a difference between Book A, Book B, and Book C. It's like a half a point here and there.
Yeah, and that's what you're going to see. I mean, that's the advantage. If you're a sharp bettor and you have your own numbers made and you fire on these things as soon as the numbers pop up, obviously that's why you call it sharp money, right? That sharpens the numbers. And Kenny, I think at this point you're not going to see more than a half or a 1 point difference at most anywhere, would you?
No, because you're going to have somebody with an opinion that's going to put you back in line if you get out of the market. So myself, I'm waiting for totals to go up. Mm-hmm. I got a total already.
That's where you find the biggest differences in totals.
And I'll be interested to see where some of these lines move as well, because right now I think everybody on the screen that has their numbers up is pretty comfortable with the number that they're using, or they wouldn't have put it up. And some of these are going to be 2-3 points off by tip-off on Thursday.
So a couple notable moves. So Florida State, we mentioned, open 9.5. That's up to 11. How about Wofford from -2 to -3? Money on the Terriers here. I know it's a tough draw. You get Seton Hall, and then if you win that game, you get Kentucky. But it looks like the money moving so far on Wofford from 2 to 3. Michigan State 19 up to 20. You've got Kansas from 9 down to 8, so some money coming in on Northeastern. Syracuse from 1 to 2. Virginia Commonwealth from a pick to 1.5. Cincinnati, Matt, from 3 to 4 against Iowa.
Let's see. I don't disagree with that. Like I said, I was a little bit. I had Cincinnati 2.5, but I said I kind of like Cincinnati in that matchup. So I would, just based off raw numbers, 2.5. But I'm not going to argue with 3.5 here because I don't like this Iowa team. Last in the Big Ten in defensive efficiency, and Cincinnati much tougher on the defensive end, tougher on the boards. Iowa's going to have to hope its 3-point shooting is hot to stay in that game. I think that number's right now. Let's put it that way, 3.5.
And we all mentioned, you, Kenny, and Bruce Marshall from the Gold Sheet, you guys mentioned that you really respect Cal Irvine. The Anteaters are still taking money. This was opened up 6.5. Kansas State the favorite, of course, 4-13 matchup. I'm looking at a couple books in Vegas. South Point and CG have 5.5 right now. So a point adjustment away from Kansas State onto the side of UC Irvine.
Yeah, a lot of that could be Dean Wade.
I think most of it is.
Yeah. Dean Wade's not playing. Very valuable player for Kansas State, and UC Irvine playing in California, playing in San Jose. Now, see, you would think that'd be a huge advantage. It is time frame wise, not fan wise though. Right. They don't have a lot of fans, UC Irvine, so they may have a couple thousand fans go to the game in San Jose. But that's it. Like a Wisconsin will travel 20,000 fans to their game. They could bring 20,000 to California. It all depends on how much money they have left from traveling, watching their teams for the year.
So that region, actually, Wisconsin and Oregon has had a couple line moves here. Wisconsin was -3 here at the South Point, and now we're looking at Wisconsin -1.5.
Yeah, that's more.
There's been a lot of Oregon money driven into Vegas over the last 4 days or so, and the money continues today. Wisconsin goes from -3 to -1.5 against a team that has locked in defensively, changed their rotation, and they've won 8 games in a row.
Well, a lot of that money that's coming in today has been won betting on Oregon the last couple of games, or at least betting on the 3 games in the Mountain West or the
Oregon's
Pac-12
what, won and covered 7 straight?
They've won 8 in a row.
8 straight now?
Yep, 8 in a row. 4 regular
Lost
season.
track. I mean, I bet on the Oregon. Yeah, I bet on the Oregon in the last 3 games of the Pac-12 tournament. And,
18th best defensive team right now. 108 on offense, but that's the entire season. I'm sure they're much better than that as of late.
If you actually frame the numbers, like in the last 10 games of the season, Oregon would rank much better than that, no question.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Well, just let's use the last 8 with the 8-game winning streak. They were 6-8 in conference. They lost on the road at USC and UCLA, dropped to 6-8, 5-12 overall, and now a 4-game winning streak, winning 4 games in 4 days. Does that take a lot out of you, though, going into the NCAA tournament?
One other big mover here, and I'm sure this will stun some of you. Utah State is now a 3.5-point favorite against Washington.
Yeah,
it opened 1.5, got to 2, 2.5, 3, and now 3.5 against a team in the Pac-12 that won the regular season.
Overreaction. Utah State won the tournament in the bad league because basically Jordan Caroline did not play for Nevada. That made a huge difference in clearing out the top half of the bracket. I know Washington has faded badly here down the stretch, but I have to take the 3.5 with the Pac-12 champs.
Yeah, I'm total agreement. I think Washington should be the favorite in the game, and I've been a big Utah State backer most of the year, but the better defensive team getting points and have played the better schedules. Matt mentioned this has been a really miserable Mountain West Conference. The Pac-12 was bad too, but the Mountain West was very poor this year.
Now, Washington has just been in a free fall. I mean, you look at where they started the season and how they finished it. Ken Palm's got them 51st, but a loss to Arizona State, a loss to Cal, lost to Oregon and the regular season.
1-point win at Stanford.
Yeah,
Matt said something earlier, though, that made a lot of sense. It's something I look at. They clinched the conference so early. They won the conference by 3 games. And when that happens, it's just like NBA teams when you clinch and you have nothing to play for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden you play against a team who's been fighting for their lives or is. It's tough to get up. This is a new season, new game. I think you're going to see Washington's best game here against Utah State.
Kenny White, Matt Youmans, Sam Panayotovich here at the South Point. Let's now go down to the Westgate and bring in Patrick Everson, senior writer, Covers.com, at Covers_Vegas. So, Patrick, the lines have been up at the Westgate for a little over a half an hour. What's been hit already? What's the market been like over there?
Well, it's been good. There's been a couple of games, 3 games, in fact, that are seeing some early action. Just bouncing off of Derek Wilkinson a little bit ago. He's the supervisor here at the Superbook. 3 games, again, of note. Minnesota bettors were liking them at +5 against Louisville. It moved to +4.5. It's since gone back to +5, so a little bouncing back and forth there. But Derek said they liked Minnesota at the +5 early. Virginia Commonwealth -1 to -1.5 in that game against Central Florida. And then the Michigan game, Michigan Wolverines opened a big, heavy favorite here, -15.5. Already bet up to -16 against Montana.
Hey, Patrick, how about big bets? Did they say they took any like 5 or 10 dime bets right off the biggest bets the Westgate took so far?
Derek said nothing. They've not seen anything really huge, just a little bit to make a move a little bit on some of these games. He didn't mention anything big yet, but I'm going to check with him on that and say, hey, you guys got any? Have you guys got any limit plays so far? But it doesn't sound like the early stuff is limit plays necessarily, but probably some sharp stuff that they felt was interesting enough to adjust the lines a little bit. Although again, on that Minnesota game, it's gone back and forth, 4.5, 5, back 5, 4.5, back to 5. So maybe they found the sweet spot there, like you were alluding to earlier, Matt. They were probably trying to find that that right number, and perhaps they have if they're right on it, where bettors are going one way with Minnesota and a half-point adjustment, they're coming back the other way with Louisville.
Did they mention, Patrick, what their limits are right now, how much they are taking on the sides?
That's a phenomenal question, and I should have the answer to it, but I don't. I promise you in the next segment I'll come back to it, or I'll tweet it out or get it to you guys one way or another, but I should have checked on that. I know you guys had said down at the South Point, 10K at the counter and 5K on the app, correct?
Kudos to Chris.
Yeah. Chris and Vinny and Richie, those guys said they would take 10K here at the South Point. I assume the Westgate would take a similar type of bet.
Yeah, sure. I would certainly think so. I'm sure they're not. They aren't ones to shy away from anything here. So I'm sure the limits are pretty good here. And again, I'll check back with them, see if they've had any limit plays so far that have helped push any of these lines around a little bit.
Hey, Patrick, how about players whose status is not 100% determined for games this week, like Jordan Caroline for Nevada? Did those guys talk about how they made the Florida-Nevada number, not knowing Jordan Caroline's status? He sat out the Mountain West tournament with an Achilles injury that's bothered him. And Kenny and I were a little bit surprised here to see Nevada as a 2.5-point favorite.
Right. They didn't discuss it specifically, but that was one of 3 or 4 games that Derek said Ed Salmons was kind of running the group back there. There were 4 guys in the war room trying to put these numbers together. And that was one of 4 games, Nevada, Florida, where they felt it was really difficult. It was challenging for them to get the lines on that game along with 3 others. And I'm sure that injury played a part into it. And, maybe they felt okay enough with it to go with where they went. But, again, that was one of the 4 games that was cited as the most challenging, the one they debated the most about where to go with that number.
Patrick, how about this movement in the Utah State and Washington game? I know you're a Pac-12 guy, but to see Utah State open as the favorite, we thought, wow, that's pretty telling here. Utah State a favorite against Washington. It opened 1.5, and now it's 3.5. Utah State favored by over a bucket.
Well, I didn't watch a lot of Washington this season, but Oregon really took care of them last week at Washington. I know they only won by 8, but it just didn't seem like Washington was ever going to get that game from them. And that was on Washington's home floor. And as Matt alluded to, or maybe they clinched the Pac-12 too early. I don't know, but they're not in the kind of form that I think you want to be in March. And last night was another example, having to face Oregon again for the second time in a week, and Oregon running away with that game. And so I'm not sure I'm necessarily surprised. I like Utah State in this game. I don't know if 3.5. That's a little bit of a surprise, I think. But I like Utah State, and I can't say I'm shocked they're favored based on Washington's recent form and the way Utah State's really their whole season has unfolded. That's a good basketball team up there.
That's Patrick Everson at Covers_Vegas. Patrick will follow you on Covers.com. We'll read your tweets and anything else you have. Please feel free to let us know.
You betcha. Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, live at the Westgate Superbook, Patrick Everson, Covers.com. When we come back, we talk about more games with pro bettor Paul Stone here at the South Point Hotel. It's VSiN's Selection Sunday Special, the March to Madness.
This is the March to Madness on VSiN. Follow us at VSiN.com and listen on SiriusXM Channel 204 and on Twitter at VSiN Live. VSiN last week. Here's some of what you missed.
If Arizona takes Kyler Murray, it's going to be interesting to see what they can spin Josh Rosen into from a draft standpoint.
I agree.
Because to me, you're still looking at a guy, and depends on how teams evaluated him last year. That's why I always find it interesting when some of these players, and I go back to Carl Pickens way back in the day when he said, I'm not going to meet with this team because you're not drafting where I'm
Right.
going to be drafted. I think it's important for these players to meet with these teams because down the line somebody might want to trade for you. And I think a team might look at Rosen, who they had high on their draft board despite his struggles last year, and say, hey, you know what? This is a guy we can pick up for a late first-round pick or an early second. We should take a shot with him.
Let's go back to the original here, the hot goalie picture of Paulie, please.
Yeah.
I want to post this up here quickly. Right, we have it, right? Yeah, there you go. Paul Howard, hot goalie. Look at that. How old are you right here? 20? 16?
20.
What are you, 18? I don't know.
That's junior year of high school.
Oh, junior high school. Okay, all right.
I'm 17.
I'm getting the years confused here. So before we pull this here, how much do you love Halle Berry?
Oh, I love Halle Berry.
She's a 10, right? On a scale from 1 to 10?
Sure.
Love her. How much do you like tattoos?
What is that?
That's her latest tattoo.
Come on.
What, you don't like that?
Wow, I like the hair.
Tattoo
What a caboose.
is sexy. Look at that. Now let's go side by side.
Oh, wow.
You think you have a chance?
Get out of here. That guy's dead and buried there.
Hey, look, value is value. This is, and we get to this every week, and we talk about it all during baseball season. But for aspiring sports bettors, again, this is if you're betting with an edge here, this is value is value. Does that mean that if somebody asks you, hey, do you think the Canucks are going to win this game? Actually, no. But if we made this bet 100 times or 1,000 times, it is a plus EV proposition, meaning that you would win it enough for it to be a value bet over the course of that sample size, and so therefore it is a good bet.
A lot of times with these short favorites, Sam, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, I like to just play the money line on the favorites if I like it, and don't play with fire in a situation like this where you can get burned laying 1.5 and win by 1, or laying 2 and win by 1, and it happened if you laid the 2 with Washington yesterday.
And you always say that too when you have -1.5 or -2. On the flip side of that, if you get 1.5 or +2, you're not taking the money line. You're taking every point you can get because you had, was it UNLV against San Diego State last weekend?
+1.5 and lost by 1.
Welcome back to the March to Madness, a daily update on the best of the NCAA tournament. Listen to us on SiriusXM channel 204 and follow us online at vsin.com and on Twitter at vsinlive.
5:14 here on the Selection Sunday special, the March to Madness. Kenny White, Matt Youmans, Sam Panayotovich, joined now by professional bettor Paul Stone. We were told, Paul, that once you were done firing, you would come in and join us. So I guess you ran out of bullets, huh?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I don't think they're going to post a number on the Marquette-Murray game. I've been waiting on it for a few minutes. I know some places have posted it, but they didn't post a number here. So I think I got in about 7 or 8 bets, all underdogs. So, yeah, their numbers were tight. I thought they did a real good job.
So if the Marquette-Murray State number is 4, 4.5, who were you looking to play?
Yeah, I actually made it more 2.5 or 3.
Did you
so
really?
I'm probably looking at Murray there. Yeah, that's a good matchup. You got 2 great scorers in Morant and Marcus Howard, and interesting, intriguing matchup there. So yeah, I think there's a little value with Murray at that line.
So you said you fired on 7 or 8 games. How many?
I fired on, just to take a quick look here and use my notes, I played 8 games. I did. You may go over some of those.
Yeah, the South Point's taking 10,000 a game, and you were betting what, 1 or 2,000, nickel or dimes or what?
Right. Yeah, nickels and dimes. I didn't bet a great deal, so I didn't scare anybody.
No $10,000 bets.
No $10,000 bets.
That's okay.
All right, Paul. Thanks for joining us. What was the biggest?
Paul doesn't have Derek Stevens' bankroll, but that's okay.
It is okay. What was the
Those
biggest?
Those are still substantial. 500 nickel dime bets are still substantial for most people. I give you respect for firing on these numbers. Go ahead, Paul. Start with a couple of the ones you like the most right off the bat.
You know the one I like the most, I'm unlike, and you guys maybe have been playing them up, so y'all just forgive me for my different opinion, but I think Wofford is extremely overrated. They played 4 or 5 name opponents in non-conference, and what happens is these teams get in their conferences and they start winning because somebody's got to win. And I think Wofford's an overvalued team, and a team that I was really looking to play on was Seton Hall. I think Seton Hall's played, they're a tough-minded team, and I played Seton Hall at +2, and then they respected my +2 play so much they moved it to 3, and I took a little bit more at +3. So Seton Hall is my was my top play, and also made a play on Cal Irvine +6.5 over Kansas State was my next one, and then I took New Mexico State +8 over Auburn. I think they opened it at 9, and I tried to plug it in and got beat to the punch. So I got the Aggies +8 over Auburn was my third top play there.
Yeah, we've been in agreement pretty much. Matt was, I agree with you. I like Seton Hall. I like Kevin Willard. I like their defense. They come much better conference. And I agree with you. These teams in lower conferences, somebody's got to win. The good team's going to win a lot of games, but they're just not playing the same type of competition Seton Hall's playing day in and day out. So, yeah, I agree. Everyone here loves Cal Irvine, playing on the West Coast, pretty close to home. Mexico State was another one Matt and I both agreed with.
Yeah, I agree with that. What'd you get on your UC Irvine?
I got +6.5.
Okay.
I think that's what they opened it at. I got it right when it came up. Was ready to fire on that one.
I'm about to post my top 10 opinions on these first-round games, trying to bet some of these. The Westgate's finally got everything up on the apps, and South Point, William Hill. So it looks like every place has got the numbers up. What was the biggest bet you made so far?
It was the Seton Hall. I made 2 plays on Seton Hall over Wofford. I made one at +2 and then one at +3.
So I made that number Wofford 1.5, and I did not think that was a great matchup for Wofford. Seton Hall, more athletic team. Obviously, Wofford got a really tough draw here. If the Terriers win this game, Paul, they have to face Kentucky. Good luck with this draw. Yeah.
Paul, did you take a look at the play-in game? Belmont playing Temple. Belmont now a 3-point favorite pretty much everywhere, and I just heard their center. He's been out. He's questionable for this game, Nick Mazinski. So anything on this?
That was one of my plays. I made Belmont -1, and I don't know if they opened it pick or Belmont -1. I think they opened it at pick, and got a lot of action on Belmont. And when it hit 3, I took Temple +3.
Nice.
I just think it's too many points, and just took the Owls and a number there, plus the points again from a tougher conference, American Athletic Conference. Got some good teams there, and Temple, they were up and down, but I just thought getting +3 in that game was a bargain, so I took Temple plus the points.
When you look at that region, Paul, in the West, you got Texas Tech. They're the 3. They'll play Northern Kentucky, assuming they win that one, is a 14-point favorite. They could play Buffalo, and then the possibility of either Nevada or Michigan. There's that bracket there on the screen on VSiN.com and Fubo TV. Do you like the draw for Texas Tech? This is more of a big picture question than anything, but how far can they go, and how do you like their path?
Yeah, I hadn't looked, just to be honest about it, I hadn't looked too closely at the draw yet, but Texas Tech concerns me in the fact that even though Culver's a great player, one of the more underrated players in the country, I think, offensively, I think they're going to get stymied at some point. You just got to be able to score the basketball, and they play great defense, and I think they're one of the better coach teams in the country. They do more with less, but I'm probably not quite as high on Texas Tech as some people are.
Got to be able to score. That's a good point. That's why I like Virginia. And we're looking at their route through this draw that they got. Seems like they got a pretty good draw. And you know what? Texas Tech's got a bad draw because if they got to play Buffalo, they're going to be in trouble in that game. That's a really can score.
So Seton Hall is the Paul Stone special. You can follow on Twitter at Paul Stone Sports. Unfortunately, the powers that be, Richie, Baccellieri, Vinny, Magliulo are going to come in here right after you. So we appreciate you coming in, and always appreciate you firing and sharing with us.
Absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity to be on. Good luck to everybody during the tournament.
All right, that's Paul Stone at Paul Stone Sports. When we come back, the guys that made the Lions here at the South Point will join us on the set.
This is the March to Madness on VSiN. Follow us at VSiN.com and listen on SiriusXM channel 204 and on Twitter at VSiN Live. Here's some of what you missed.
If Arizona takes Kyler Murray, it's going to be interesting to see what they can spin Josh Rosen into from a draft standpoint.
I agree.
Because to me, you're still looking at a guy, and depends on how teams evaluated him last year. That's why I always find it interesting when some of these players, and I go back to Carl Pickens way back in the day when he said, I'm not going to meet with this team because you're not drafting where I'm going to be drafted. I think it's important for these players to meet with these teams because down the line somebody might want to trade for you. And I think a team might look at Rosen, who they had high on their draft board despite his struggles last year, and say, hey, you know what? This is a guy we can pick up for a late first-round pick or an early second. We should take a shot with him.
Let's go back to the original here, the hot goalie picture of Paulie, please.
Yeah.
I want to post this up here quickly. We have it, right? Yeah, there you go. Paul Howard, hot goalie. Look at that. How old are you right here? 20? 9 to 16.
20,
What are
20.
you, 18? I don't know.
That's junior year of high school.
Oh, junior high school. Okay, all right.
I'm 17.
I'm getting the years confused here. So before we pull this here, how much do you love Halle Berry?
Oh, I love Halle Berry.
She's a 10, right? On a scale from 1 to 10?
Sure.
Love her. How much do you like tattoos?
What is that?
That's her latest tattoo.
Come on.
Well, you don't like that?
Wow, I like the hair.
Tattoo
What a caboose.
is sexy. Look at that. Now let's go side by side.
Oh, wow.
You think you have a chance?
Get out of here. That guy's dead and buried there.
Hey, look, value is value. This is, and we get to this every week, and we talk about it all during baseball season. But for aspiring sports bettors, again, this is if you're betting with an edge here, this is value is value. Does that mean that if somebody asks you, hey, do you think the Canucks are going to win this game? Actually, no. But if we've made this bet 100 times or 1,000 times, it is a plus EV proposition, meaning that you would win it enough for it to be a value bet over the course of that sample size, and so therefore it is a good bet.
A lot of times with these short favorites, Sam, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, I like to just play the money line on the favorites if I like it, and don't play with fire in a situation like this where you can get burned laying 1.5 and win by 1, or laying 2 and win by 1, and it happened if you laid the 2 with Washington yesterday.
And you always say that too when you have -1.5 or -2. On the flip side of that, if you get 1.5 or +2, you're not taking the money line. You're taking every point you can get because you had, was it UNLV against San Diego State last weekend?
+1.5 and lost by 1.
Welcome back to the March to Madness, a daily update on the best of the NCAA tournament. Listen to us on SiriusXM channel 204 and follow us online at vsin.com and on Twitter at vsinlive.
524 here in Las Vegas. It's our Selection Sunday special, the March to Madness. Kenny White, Matt Youmans, Sam Panayotovich, thanks to Paul Stone. And now two of our guys in the desert that were kind of moving the meter here at the South Point, Vinny Magliulo and Richie Baccellieri. Gentlemen, the job has been done. And again, you boys were first in Vegas. First, and it wasn't even close.
Well, it was a good effort. It was a good exercise. Chris Andrews is still behind the counter right now, and moving all the numbers and taking the action, which has been pretty considerable. Sam, it's been not only here at the counter, but obviously at the Rampart and on the phone apps as well. So, we tried to be accurate and get it up as quickly as we could. So it was great to be with two of my best friends.
Really, I mean, it's great to be first, but the bigger thing is taking 10,000 a pop on the first numbers. That's got to be congratulated right there.
Yeah, Chrissy does a nice job.
There's nobody in the offshore world taking that. I guarantee you. I saw some numbers go up. Mm-hmm. I know what the limits are. $250.
Yeah, nice, very nice.
Yeah, so that's a great job.
Well, you got to have, when you bet, you want to bet with conviction. When you book, you want to be confident in your numbers. So that's how we do. That's our philosophy.
I'm laughing because Richie walked in and asked me who I like. I'm like, no, Richie, I want to know who you like. How much fun is this for you, Rich, and how does this process? I mean, this isn't something that just starts today. You don't walk into the South Point and just throw a number on the board. I mean, this is months on months on months of work, right?
Yeah, it's every day. It's 4 a.m., till 7 or 8 in the morning, and then at night again, it's 8 or 9 at night till however I can keep my eyes open. It's the same old thing, reading articles, box scores, as much as you can read. I mean, with the extra games this year, really, it added the workload pretty good. It made it very difficult time-wise. So you gotta find the spots of the games that you want to handicap for 12 minutes, and then find the other games that you can manage 5, 6, or 7 on. I mean, that's what it comes down to when you're talking 145 games on a Saturday.
Let's talk about a few specific teams, Richie and Vinny. And Paul Stone said he feels like Wofford has become overrated by the public. Your thoughts on Wofford, which is now a 3-point favorite? Who is Wofford playing
Seton
again?
Hall.
That's Seton Hall with Kentucky possibly in the second round. But Wofford 3 over Seton Hall. Richie, what do you think of that matchup?
Yeah, I think I made Seton Hall a half or pick.
Did you?
Mm-hmm. And we might have hung Wofford 1, knowing that they probably bet that side. I think. What are we hanging?
You guys hung 1, moved to 2, now 3.
Yeah, it's too high. I mean, it's just Wofford. Don't get me wrong. Really good team. They had some. They played 3 or 4 games against really top contenders this year, and they went 0 for 4, lost by double digits. Nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. But Seton Hall's tested day in and day out. I mean, the schedule was very competitive. The Big East wasn't very good this year, but they were very competitive against each other. A lot of the teams all rated very closely, so every night was a war for them.
And the thing about Wofford, the Southern Conference was very weak. They routed a lot of teams.
The bottom of the Southern, they had the top four were good. Were good Southern teams. It's nice to see East Tennessee State up there. Yeah, but the bottom was just miserable.
Actually, Wofford beat UNC Greensboro the 2 times in the regular season by 29 and 30 points. I think that's what
they were the second best team in the conference.
Exactly, and that's what got a lot of people thinking, "Hey, this Wofford team is something special." How about Nevada, Florida? Because Jordan Caroline did not play in the Mountain West tournament against San Diego State. Wolfpack lost that game. He has an Achilles injury. Assume he's going to play this week in this tournament. How much did you debate this number?
Yeah, well, don't assume he's going to play. I mean, that's what I read too. But the Achilles is tough, and what I've read was that it's been bugging him for a while.
Yeah,
and then Trey Porter banged his head up. Is that his name, Trey Porter?
Yes.
He banged his head up and hurt his shoulder on a fall. So I don't know if anybody's mentioned that, but we actually didn't hang it at first because I made Florida the favorite if Caroline's out, and they hung Nevada 2.5, I think, after everybody else did. But I mean. And I know Kenny's always a big fan of that program. So, Kenny, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I made Florida the favorite, 1.5, and I got 3 points for Caroline. So I'll make the Gators 4.5 at that point.
Well, we kind of, we did anticipate that this is certainly not going to be 100%, right? So,
they don't play any guys. They got 5 guys. They played them all year. The big loss, their big loss, they lost their point guard before the season started. That really hurt. Now, I mean, Musselman's played these guys to death all season trying to get a higher seed.
And one of the twins got in foul trouble early. I mean, they were down the whole game.
Yes, you're exactly right.
Martin was in Caleb or whatever.
They're tired. They're a tired team. He played 5 guys 38 minutes a game.
Well, there you go.
I'm kind of surprised to see the money show up on Nevada here early because I like Florida in that matchup as well.
Oh, I think there'll be plenty of buyback on Florida as we get closer.
You like to gamble, don't you? You like to gamble?
A little bit, Richie. Yeah.
All right.
Like Richie. Richie doesn't like gambling.
Richie likes to gamble too. How about Wisconsin, Oregon? If you're going to gamble on this side game, which side would you take? I mean, I played Oregon in the Pac-12 tournament. Love the way this team's finished the season. Games in San Jose, maybe a little bit of an edge for the Ducks. What'd you make the number?
Yeah, I actually made Wisconsin a touch higher.
Did you?
But we shaded it down because Oregon's definitely the hot team coming in. But I don't have a lot of confidence in their competition going into the Washington game. They handled Washington pretty decent. I thought Wisconsin. We opened at 3. I still thought it was a bit high. What's it down to now?
1.5.
Yeah,
it's starting. To me, the games like this are starting to get into a spot where I could play Wisconsin.
Your lowest total on the board.
Huh?
This is going to be the lowest total on the board.
He says 118.
113.5.
Oh, you're down to 113?
I made it 113.5. I think Matt said they thought like 120. I think it's going to settle in about 115, 116.
Well, I could probably lean to whiskey at the number, even though I don't really want to be on that side, but the number's putting you there.
Are you guys surprised to see you guys hung 1.5 on Utah State, and we've been sitting here for almost 3 hours saying, look, Washington's going to come in completely undervalued, but the market tells the story. Look at this, 3.5 now on Utah State, a 2-point bump up against a Power 5 team that was a regular season champ. Utah State did just win the Mountain West, Vin, but 3.5 better than Washington?
Well, it's almost, some of it is an anti-Pac-12 sentiment as well when you think about it, right? I mean, there was really, a school of thought that they'd be lucky to have multiple bids. Arizona State's got a playing game against St. John's. So, you look at this and it also speaks to Utah State's a good team. I mean, listen, Craig Smith does a great job coaching that team. And they really didn't get a lot of publicity during the course of the year. But again, you look at Washington and the Pac-12. Think about it. Powerful. We're having the same conversation about the Pac-12 now, almost as that we had about the Pac-12 during the college football season as well. Right. They were out of the playoffs altogether.
Matt knows a lot about the West Coast schools, I'm sure. Utah State seemed one-dimensional with the kid, Merrill. I mean, he's
not really. Actually, Keita is a dominant big man who's going to be a first-round NBA pick, and Sam Merrill's a sharpshooter. I think this is a pretty well-balanced Utah State team, but still, at this number, I think this is an overreaction.
But it opened 1 and got bet up. It's getting bet up to 3.5.
Yeah,
but let's keep in mind, once again, numbers go up on Sunday night, and they go up, in the offshore world, and Vegas puts them up, and I'm sure now some of these other jurisdictions. But the ability to move the number a couple of points at very little money is a beautiful setup for professional gamblers, and that's what you got to watch for. And if you think that the numbers at 3.5 right now is a good price, play it. Because there's a good chance it's going to go back to 1.5. I don't know what Kenny rates this game, but it had to be close to a pick 'em.
Yes. Oh, there's no doubt. We talked about Washington. They clinched the Pac-12 so early. They won it by 3 games. They were the best team by far, and they just didn't have a lot to play for at the end of the year.
And not to blow smoke up anybody's ass, but honestly, when you're listening to a show like this with you guys on it, and my man Jelly over here is unbelievable. if you're listening, you're out calling somebody tomorrow morning, and you say, hey, 3.5? Yeah, a plus 3.5 for $50. But
that's key.
That's a true story.
That's a code.
I don't know who Joey is, but I'm very curious now.
Joey Pots and Pans?
I have no idea.
Hey, Vinny, what were the biggest plays you took so far in the first couple hours back?
Mississippi, we had a change there. If you look at 8:03 Oklahoma, Mississippi, that game opened with Oklahoma as a 1-point favorite. Now Mississippi sits at 2. And there were some of these. We did get some buyback. There's some two-way action at some of these current numbers. But you look at a game like that. There were some 8-dime bets in the 8-dime category too with some of these. Yeah. So anywhere from a nickel, which is $5.50. $500 out there for folks listening, and but there were some as you mentioned, we did take some $8,000 and $10,000 plays as well. So,
are there any teams, either of you, top 3, top 4 seeds that you just don't believe? I know Matt's very bullish. He's not very high on Purdue, and Purdue's laying a big number, about 12.5 against Old Dominion. Are there any teams, Richie, Vinny, that you just when you watch them, you just don't see it, and you don't believe that they can make a run? Anybody? Top 4 seeds?
I think we kind of look at not really, Sam. I mean, again, first with us, we try to just simply say, all right, committee, give us the matchups, and we'll make the prices. Right?
When you guys are making prices back there, I assume you're probably not even talking about the seeds.
No, we're just looking at the matchups at that point, right? And now, does anybody have an advantage as to where some of these games are being played, right? If from a travel standpoint and things. The other part, but it's not just those 1s and 2s. And if you look at a game, and I know Richie's got an opinion on this, a pretty strong opinion. When you look at a team like Cincinnati, who I think is a 7, right? I don't understand how. I think they should have been seeded much higher than a 7.
A better seed than a 7.
You can't. Hey, Matt, you can't find any seeds in the hieroglyphics. Okay, I mean
that's a pretty impressive
chart.
I
work for a software company, but this is the way to do it, right?
Traditional.
That's outstanding.
That's it. Those are power ratings.
Those look like the launch codes to the space shuttle.
Yes.
Get your ratings.
Get your computer out. Hey, get your computer out. Get your shine box. Get your computer out, Ken.
I do mine like that.
Get your computer out.
I do mine like that.
I don't do computers anymore. I don't know if you heard.
And then I
don't do computers no more.
And then I type them into the program, and then I transfer them daily. So it's a long process.
That's just
It's so much better to adjust ratings by hand than it is to try to have any type of formula, because I adjust one team and I won't even touch the other team sometimes. Say, why am I going to dock this team because this other team played so well? They're still a good team. Let me raise this other team's rating.
Last thing, what you hate computers, Richie? What's the deal?
I've been doing this way for so long. Everyone says, why don't you do it on Excel? You can, you got all these people you work with.
He's old school, man.
I just can't do
Right.
it. I prefer the pencil and the paper and make the notes, and
he's always got a pencil,
and then try and decipher it later.
Forever the pencil. That's Vinny Magliulo, Richie Baccellieri, 2 of our guys in the desert. Thank you guys for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chris Andrews in the studio. He's going to join us next here on the Selection Sunday Special, live on VSiN.
This is the March to Madness on VSiN. Follow us at vsin.com and listen on SiriusXM channel 204 and on Twitter at VSiN Live. If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
If Arizona takes Kyler Murray, it's going to be interesting to see what they can spin Josh Rosen into from a draft standpoint.
I agree.
Because to me, you're still looking at a guy, and depends on how teams evaluated him last year. That's why I always find it interesting when some of these players, and I go back to Carl Pickens way back in the day when he said, I'm not going to meet with this team because you're not drafting where I'm
Right.
going to be drafted. I think it's important for these players to meet with these teams because down the line somebody might want to trade for you. And I think a team might look at Rosen, who they had high on their draft board despite his struggles last year, and say, hey, you know what? This is a guy we can pick up for a late first-round pick or an early second. We should take a shot with him.
Let's go back to the original here, the hot goalie picture of Paulie, please.
Yeah.
I want to post this up here quickly. We have it, right? Yeah, there you go. Paul Howard, hot goalie. Look at that. How old are you right here? 20? 16?
20.
What are you, 18? I don't know.
That's junior year of high school.
Oh, junior high school. Okay, all right. I'm getting the years confused here. So before we pull this here, how much do you love Halle Berry?
Oh, I love Halle Berry.
She's a 10, right? On a scale from 1 to 10?
Sure.
Love her. How much do you like tattoos?
What is that?
That's her latest tattoo.
Come on.
What, you don't like that?
Wow, I like the hair.
Tattoo
What a caboose.
is sexy. Look at that. Now let's go side by side.
Oh, wow.
You think you have a chance?
Get out of here. That guy's dead and buried there.
Hey, look, value is value. This is, and we get to this every week, and we talk about it all during baseball season. But for aspiring sports bettors, again, this is if you're betting with an edge here, this is value is value. Then does that mean that if somebody asks you, hey, do you think the Canucks are going to win this game? Actually, no. But if we've made this bet 100 times or 1,000 times, it is a plus EV proposition, meaning that you would win it enough for it to be a value bet over the course of that sample size, and so therefore it is a good bet.
A lot of times with these short favorites, Sam, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, I like to just play the money line on the favorites if I like it, and don't play with fire in a situation like this where you can get burned laying 1.5 and win by 1, or laying 2 and win by 1. And it happened if you laid the 2 with Washington yesterday.
And you always say that too when you have -1.5 or -2. On the flip side of that, if you get 1.5 or +2, you're not taking the money line. You're taking every point you can get because you had, was it UNLV against San Diego State last weekend?
+1.5 and lost by 1.
Welcome back to the March to Madness, a daily update on the best of the NCAA tournament. Listen to us on SiriusXM channel 204 and follow us online at vsin.com and on Twitter at vsinlive.
Welcome back. The Selection Sunday Special, March to Madness here on VSiN. Kenny White, Matt Youmans, Sam Panayotovich, and Chris Andrews, the sportsbook director here at the South Point Hotel and Casino. First of all, Chris, you got to straighten Kenny out. He asked where Jimmy was.
I didn't know that. He moved
Really?
to Pittsburgh a month ago?
Yeah. Have you been in a coma for the last month, Kenny?
I asked me something about college basketball, NBA, or NHL.
Well, I saw your sheet. I don't think you have much time to pick your head up, so you're forgiven.
Kenny's basically in a cave for the entire football and basketball season.
Yeah, I believe
he was
it.
shocked when I told him Jimmy moved to Pittsburgh. What? That was about a month ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey.
Well, we could have used him today, but
He had the best job in the world.
it's not bad. I know.
Walking around here, he's the PR guy. He goes, gets a massage, gets a shave, gets a haircut, goes home.
How much fun is this day for you? Just to kind of paint the picture of what it's like. You're longtime friends. You're sitting in the back. You're making numbers, and you're setting the market here in Vegas.
Yeah. It's stressful, but it's fun. It really is fun. And I got to tell you, I wouldn't dream of doing this without Richie and Vinny helping me out because they're huge helps to me. And without those two guys, I'd be kind of shooting in the dark. But, we disagree on some numbers and we talk about them. We put them out. But it's a ton of fun. And, man, we wrote some real business. It was great.
Holy cow, Chris! I got to hand it to you. 10,000 limit.
Yeah.
There's some really big offshore places taking 1/5 of that. Some taking $250. They put numbers out. Big deal.
Some of them were telling me they were taking a nickel, but I didn't have any 10-dime bets, but we had quite a few 8-dime bets. And what's really nice is when you get two-way. I mean that, and then you're going against sharp guys. I understand that, but when you get bets on both sides of the number.
When you put the numbers up first, it's hard to get two-way.
Yeah, I try not to look at anybody else's. You know what I mean? Sometimes something will hit you over the head, but ordinarily we just, my two guys and me, we have confidence in what we're doing. We put them out and we let them fire, so.
Chris, I asked Vinny about this. The 8-dime bet's the biggest bets you took. Do you recall which?
I don't.
No?
We had a couple of them. I can't remember who they were.
He said Ole Miss was a very popular side here.
Yeah, Virginia got bet pretty good. Ole Miss, Carolina got bet pretty good. Iowa State, that got bet pretty good. Liberty got bet. Oregon, I could see that too. Boy, they're playing some good ball.
Yeah, you guys had 3 on Oregon. Now it's 1.5.
Yeah.
And that's a game, in Oregon's backyard, essentially.
Yeah.
Now it's 1 at one of the books in Vegas. It's in San Jose, Chris. It's a tough trip for Wisconsin.
Well, it's not like it's down the street from Oregon either, Sam.
Yeah, it's still easier to travel from
Yeah, it
Oregon
is.
than Wisconsin, that's
But,
for sure.
we definitely let some of the locations influence a little bit of us. But, it's we just do our best and put it out there. The other side, another hot side was Yale, really. A lot of money showed for Yale. I think they think that they're going to maybe keep that game kind of slow, and LSU might have trouble.
Oh, they're not playing slow. Yale runs.
You really? Okay.
Oh, they go fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, no, they're going to go up and down.
I guess they think they're going to hang with
They
them.
have an NBA guy, though. They got an NBA guy. He's a junior. He's 6'6". He's a long, athletic kid that the pros like.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely money for Yale, though.
but I don't think they have the horses to stay. I thought the number was too low. I'm in disagreement. I like LSU and all. LSU won the SEC. That's hopefully this number will go down a little bit lower. I'll wait.
Yeah, you guys opened 10. Now it actually touched 7.5. But there's since been some buyback here at South Point. Yeah, up to 8. So, but still 2 points down from where you open. I'm always curious when you get to the 116 and the 215. Why 22 and not 24? Why 26 and not 28? Take me through how that process goes. When you could make it 22, you could make it 30.
Well, those are usually our biggest discrepancies. I mean, I look and I know my guys. I know my guys, and Richie's a dog guy. I know Richie's always going to be like a little low. I'm looking like at the North Carolina game. I made it 24. Richie made it 20.5. I know Richie tends to favor dogs, so not that I threw out his number. I certainly don't. But he likes that, and we went to a 23. But some of the other ones, like the Kentucky game, we all had 20. But over the years, those were definitely the ones where we had the most discrepancy. I'm looking at Virginia. 23 is what we opened it. Richie had a 21. Like I said, I know he's a dog guy, but like I said, he's I respect him. He's usually looking to play dogs to protect the ball. Michigan State's another one. He had an 18.5. We had a 20, and we wound up going with the 20. So but that's just part. That's just opinions.
Chris, we had Paul Stone in here this hour, and he was out betting your opening numbers. Paul fires on your college football numbers over the summer.
Great respect for him, man.
He was interesting because the Marquette-Murray State game was one where I think he likes Murray State a lot better than the market. What'd you and Richie make these numbers?
We put that one up late because there were some injuries there, and we were kind of all over the board there too. I made it 6. Richie actually had the favorite a little higher. He had it 7, and Vinny had it 5. And I forgot where we actually opened that game, but definitely some money for Murray State on this one. So
all right, so Marquette is right now a 4-point favorite in that game, right?
So money for the dog there.
How about Nevada and Florida? Those we talked about this with Richie B. The questions about Jordan Caroline and whether or not he's going to play in this game, and he's got the Achilles injury, so he's obviously not close to full strength. But Nevada lost in the Mountain West tournament without Caroline, lost that game to San Diego State. This is interesting too because it looks like there's been a lot of action on this game early since the number went up. What'd you make it?
I made it 1.5. There's another. Richie made it 2.5, so he favored the favorite a little bit. We're assuming Caroline's going to be healthy. I know some people from Reno, and they told me that they really kept them out of the last game more as a precautionary measure. They felt that they were going to be in the tournament, obviously. I think they probably felt they were going to be a little better than the 7th seed, but it was probably a little bit precautionary. They think he'll be, hard to say 100%, but they think he will be healthy for the first round game. So we put it up. I think I went with Richie's number. I went with 2.5. Yeah, that's what we opened it.
Chris, what was the breakdown on the bets that you took over the counter to your betting app? Do you know?
Well, in the app we were taking 5,000.
Yeah, still a really good play, letting somebody sit home and bet.
We got a few 5-dimers. Guys. Those are guys we have a lot of respect for.
You had to take more on the app, didn't you?
I'd have to look because, like I said, the guys who were betting us 8 dimes were right here in the room. So there's a few of those guys. They came with cash.
Wow.
And I'll have to look at the breakdown, Kenny. I really don't know right now, but it's got to be pretty even, I would say.
The latest I saw from New Jersey is it's like 70% on the app. 30% retail, 70% app.
Yeah. Well, we're not there yet, but we kind of purposely control that a little bit. We and I always tell guys, we're a casino.
Right.
The sports book's great. We want to make money and all that, but we are part of a casino. We want traffic here in the joint. So we're going to take care of guys who come into the room, a little better probably than what we take care of them.
There was a 15-year stretch where you couldn't bet unless you were here.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there was phones for the longest time in the 80s and then in the 90s, and then all of a sudden, like 90 to 2005 maybe, you couldn't bet unless you went into a casino. There was no more phones, and then all of a sudden, finally, betting apps came into existence, and people were able to bet on the app.
Overall, we're probably about 50% for the last 2 years, 50-50.
So sides are up. Not that you've done enough today, but when can we expect some totals to start popping up here?
I think totals will do tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll put up the future. Put the future book back up, and we'll put up the regions. We've got a couple other props in mind, like which conference is going to win the tournament. What seed is going to win the tournament. We have a couple things like that. We'll work on for the next day or two. And by the way, the 4 versus the field is still up.
What's your price on that?
Right now we got the 4 is -120 over the field.
And once again, the 4 is Duke.
Gonzaga,
Kansas, and Michigan.
Yeah. So you got 2 1s, a 2, and what's Kansas? I think
4.
A 4. But you look at Kansas. They get through the first 2 rounds. They're in Kansas City. I say that every year. There's certain teams not that they were overseeded, but they certainly got a pretty good draw if they can get through those first 2 games.
Kansas got a favorable draw, no doubt about it.
They always do.
Hey, some teams that you like going into the tournament. Either under the radar teams or just the top seeded teams that you think are hot and playing well that you like.
Well, I think some of those are obvious, but I think Iowa State right now that's a good team that I would definitely keep my eye on them. I think that they have a chance to really make some serious noise. I think Florida State is and I know they got kind of waxed a little bit, but I think that's a team that you might want to keep your eye on them. I think that's a pretty good outfit. There's a couple. Like I said, most of them are fairly obvious. I think Cincinnati right now. That's a team that's a pretty good team, and might be able to beat somebody. And I don't know about going far into the tournament, but right now, who's playing better than Oregon? I mean, they're playing great. I think they have a great shot. And I think money showed on Wisconsin this first game, but oh no, I'm sorry, I'm looking at it wrong. It showed on Oregon, and I can see why.
All right. Well, Chris, we appreciate you popping in. Your great crew did a great job again, and we were staring at the screens. Did. Yeah, South Point again, first in show at as far as all the Vegas books go. So great stuff per usual. And Kenny was still alarmed by all the limits you were taking. Kenny's like, oh
yeah,
God,
it's amazing. It's great.
10,000 on a side.
Oh, it is.
It is.
Great to take that right off the bat on opening numbers.
Yeah.
Chris, what's scene going to be like here at the South Point this week on Thursday and Friday? And I think you got ballrooms open upstairs. This place is going to be wall-to-wall standing room only.
What are you taking on Thursday? 100 dimes?
If you show up at the counter, we'll see what we can do. And I say that all the time. Some guy wanted 10 dimes on the hockey total tonight. I said, yeah, sure. Come on. As long as you give me time. If you give me time, we'll do our best to and we're in line, which we were. We'll do our best to take the bet. Yeah.
Just make sure you're ready for Dollar Buds on Wednesday.
We got a few saved for you.
And don't knock it over this time. You knocked it over last time.
I know.
Yeah, it was great. Chris Andrews, Sportsbook Director here at the South Point. Happy tournament time, man. Thank you.
Hey, thanks. Great being on with you guys. Thanks for the support.
It's Chris Andrews here at the South Point Hotel and Casino, the Sportsbook Director. So, gentlemen, we've got about 5 minutes left. Matt Youmans, Kenny White here on the set with us on the Selection Sunday special. Matt, I've got my list that I'm already looking at, and, of course, this will change over the course of the next couple of days, and we'll see on some injuries and see how these numbers move. But if you had, 3 or 4 that you're really looking to pounce on.
3 or 4. I got 10.
Okay.
Yeah. I got a top 10
all right,
list.
Well, let me get my pen out, and I will be ready to take some notes here.
Just like David Letterman.
I've got mine, too. I'm ready.
All right, top 10 list, and in no particular order.
Oh, my God, there's a graphic already.
I sent the graphic in like a half hour ago.
That's
These are
amazing.
using Westgate William Hill, and obviously the South Point numbers that are up on these games. And most of these numbers should still be available. I'm pretty sure they are, looking at the screen right now. So the first one I'll talk about is Arizona State -1 over St. John's, and that's a play-in game in Dayton. I actually I was kind of struck by how poorly St. John's played against Marquette. And, when you watch the Johnnies offensively, there's not much to it. It's a couple of high ball screens, dribble drives to the rim. I think Arizona State's got better guards, better athletes. I made this number a little bit higher, Arizona State -2, so I like that one. I thought Old Dominion Purdue was overpriced. That number is 13.5. Purdue 4-7 against the spread since the beginning of February. This team's faded. I've got a much lower rating here, so I took 12.5 with Old Dominion. Actually, I have not bet that yet, but that's top play. I'm hoping the 13 pops up on the screen again. But these are what I'm looking to bet right now, and I bet a couple of these. Washington +3.5 against Utah State. This number's an overreaction. This is one I'm going to bet right now, Sam, because I don't think this number is going above 3.5. I like Utah State a lot, but still the Mountain West is weak. The Pac-12 regular season champs getting 3.5. Washington, I think, clinched the conference too soon. It really faded down the stretch, but this 2-3 zone, this is going to be a game that goes to the wire, a low-scoring game. I'll take 3.5 with Washington. Kenny, what did you make the number in this game? Washington, Utah State?
Yeah, Utah State won. No, I made Washington won. I made Washington won.
Yeah, I made Washington a 1-point favorite as well. So we'll see if our numbers bear out on that one. I'm going to take Vermont +11.5 over FSU. This one I have not bet yet. This number might go a little bit higher. But, Sam, we talked about this game is going to be in Hartford. This Vermont team should be able to hang around. I like it. Now, Kenny and I differ on this a little bit. I like Yale getting 8 against LSU. I've been fading LSU since the Will Wade situation, obviously in the SEC tournament. Kenny, you think this number is a little light? Yale
talent-wise,
getting 8?
Overall talent, yeah. Yeah, but again, I think this is a very good over game. LSU loves to pressure. They're very good offensively, and Yale, they can score and they run. They love to get up and down. Last 2 games they played went well over the total. Today, flying over the total with Harvard, who plays really good defense. Harvard's defense may be as good as LSU's.
That's why Yale's not the typical Ivy League team that plays half-court offense.
No.
Arizona State -1, Old Dominion +12.5, Washington +3.5, Vermont +11.5, Yale +8. The other 5, Florida +2.5 over Nevada, Syracuse -2 over Baylor. Once again, expecting Tyus Battle to play for the Orange. It sure looks that way. Colgate +18 over Tennessee. Oregon +1.5 over Wisconsin. That game's in San Jose. I like the Pac-12 tournament champs a lot. UC Irvine getting 6 against Kansas State without Dean Wade. We expect Dean Wade's not going to play in the tournament. Kenny?
4 games that I like that I played already. Arizona State -1. Took 2.5 with Seton Hall. Florida +3 and Washington +3.
You're talking too fast, Kenny. I'm trying to circle here.
I think those are all pretty much equal with Matt. Arizona State -1. That's a match. Seton Hall +2.5. That's all I could find.
You could get 3.
I know. I took 2.5 though, because my man over here said he took 2, and then when it moved to 3, so I thought, you know what? I'm not going to wait for it to go to 3. I'm just going to take the 2.5 right now. I guess if I see 3 later, I'll take it too. Florida +3 and Washington +3.
All right, so I'm in agreement on Washington. I really think Washington is going to win this game. So the ones that I wrote down LSU with you, Kenny. I think I'm going to lay 7.5. Because that's where the number's at right now. Vermont, Florida, St. Mary's, Old Dominion, Washington, Iowa State, Seton Hall. Those would be the ones. So a lot of agreement. I think we're all on Washington, and we're all on Vermont. It sounds like early. I like Iowa State a lot, too. I think Ohio State's very overrated. That number 6, that might be 7 or 8 by the time we get to tip.
Yeah, Iowa State's good. It's a good basketball team. That might be a total. I'm waiting for the totals. That's what I'm probably 80% of my wagers are total wagers now, or even money wise. I'd rather play side smaller and play whatever I can get on totals.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out. This has been the Selection Sunday Special live on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Great job by Brian Rogers again today, too. Made it very easy for us. If you missed anything, you can watch it on VSiN.com, and the replay will take you through. Good luck, cash some tickets, and we'll talk to you next time.
This is the March to Madness on VSiN. Follow us at VSiN.com and listen on SiriusXM Channel 204 and on Twitter at VSiN Live.
Check out the VSiN store for the latest and greatest in sports betting fashion. You'll find VSiN shirts and hats for any occasion. They're made to order so you can find the right design, color, and size. We have more than 30 shirt designs, but some of the more popular collections include our Lucky Numbers collection. Are you an underdog bettor? Maybe a plus 7.5 is your number. Maybe plus 3.5. Are you an under player? It's not under until it's over is our most popular shirt design. Maybe you're recovering from a bad beat? We have a shirt to make you look better than you feel. If you're a fan of a particular VSiN show, we have a shirt for you too, including one with Brent's favorite phrase, cashing tickets is what it's all about. Those shirts, plus other designs, VSiN hats, and even VSiN coffee mugs are all available in our online store. Go to vsin.com/store. That's vsin.com/store. And if you have a suggestion for a shirt design, let us know. If we make it, you'll get the first one free.
If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
If Arizona takes Kyler Murray, it's going to be interesting to see what they can spin Josh Rosen into from a draft standpoint.
I agree.
Because to me, you're still looking at a guy, and depends on how teams evaluated him last year. That's why I always find it interesting when some of these players, and I go back to Carl Pickens way back in the day when he said, I'm not going to meet with this team because you're not drafting where I'm going to be drafted. I think it's important for these players to meet with these teams because down the line somebody might want to trade for you. And I think a team might look at Rosen, who they had high on their draft board despite his struggles last year, and say, hey, you know what? This is a guy we can pick up for a late first-round pick or an early second. We should take a shot with him.
Let's go back to the original here, the hot goalie picture of Paulie, please.
Yeah.
I want to post this up here quickly. We have it, right? Yeah, there you go. Paul Howard, hot goalie. Look at that. How old are you right here? 20? 16?
20.
What are you, 18? I don't know.
That's junior year of high school.
Oh, junior high school. Okay, all right.
I'm 17.
I'm getting the years confused here. So before we pull this here, how much do you love Halle Berry?
Oh, I love Halle Berry.
She's a 10, right? On a scale from 1 to 10?
Sure.
Love her. How much do you like tattoos?
What is that?
That's her latest tattoo.
Come on.
What, you don't like that?
Wow, I like the hair.
Tattoo
What a caboose.
is sexy. Look at that. Now let's go side by side.
Wow.
You think you have a chance?
Get out of here. That guy's dead and buried there.
Hey, look, value is value. This is, and we get to this every week, and we talk about it all during baseball season. But for aspiring sports bettors, again, this is if you're betting with an edge here, this is value is value. Then does that mean that if somebody asks you, hey, do you think the Canucks are going to win this game? Actually, no. But if we made this bet 100 times or 1,000 times, it is a plus EV proposition, meaning that you would win it enough for it to be a value bet over the course of that sample size, and so therefore it is a good bet.
A lot of times with these short favorites, Sam, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, I like to just play the money line on the favorites if I like it, and don't play with fire in a situation like this where you can get burned laying 1.5 and win by 1, or laying 2 and win by 1, and it happened if you laid the 2 with Washington yesterday.
And you always say that too when you have -1.5 or -2. On the flip side of that, if you get 1.5 or +2, you're not taking the money line. You're taking every point.
March to Madness, a daily rundown of the wonderful craziness that is the NCAA tournament, one of the most unique events in sports. From the powerhouses to the Cinderellas, the tournament has it all and will keep you up to speed on all of it. And now, the March to Madness.
And we're marching. All the conference tournaments are done, and we welcome you into the March to Madness, the Selection Sunday special here on the Vegas Stats and Information Network on Sirius XM 204, VSiN.com, and Fubo TV. We've got pages of notebooks, we've got computers, we've got algorithms, and we've got Kenny White.
And paper.
We got everything
and
here.
Paper.
Sam Panayotovich, Matt Youmans, Kenny White, and Bruce Marshall from the Gold Sheet. Guys, we're all set, and now the question remains, who are the 4 number 1 seeds? Youmans, on the last show, we had Mr. ACC Sean Cavanaugh saying 3 teams from the ACC will be on the 1 line.
Yeah, as much as I hate that, I can't really put up a big argument to that, because I think Duke has to be there, Virginia has to be there, and you look at Gonzaga and North Carolina as the other 2 teams that fill out the likely 1 line. You can make a pretty strong case, I think, for Michigan State, but that Big Ten title game ended so late that I have a feeling the committee is going to put 3 ACC teams on that top line.
Yeah, I think the one that could have moved today would have been Tennessee. Had Tennessee won in the SEC, I think the Vols would have bumped North Carolina off the top line. But I agree. I think you're going to probably get 3 from the ACC, and both Michigan and Michigan State are going to be on the 2 line, I think.
Kenny, you okay with that? 3 teams ACC? I mean, as far as your numbers go, as far as you rate them, I mean, I don't think there's much of an argument for anybody else, right? Tennessee loses by 20. Michigan State, okay, they've had some injuries and they've had some bad losses this year, namely to Illinois. That was an awful loss. But is that what you're probably shooting for?
My only question mark is the Zags. Don't know how good they are because we don't know who they really played. I mean, they played a couple teams early in the year, and they played well. I have them the number 2 team in the country. I mean, it was a bad loss against St. Mary's because people are going to hold that against them. But, boy, it's a team they play year in and year out, the 3rd time in the season, neutral court. Anything can happen. You have one off day shooting, and anything can happen to you. I think the Zags are really good. They're definitely a top 4 team.
One thing I have to say about the Zags, too, is I was in Maui for the Invitational in November, and they beat Duke when Duke was at full strength and Gonzaga was down Killy and Tilly. Zags also lost to Tennessee without Tilly. They played at North Carolina without Tilly, so they were shorthanded. Nobody really talks about that too much. It's always making excuses for other teams missing players. I think Gonzaga has a great case for the top line.
Yeah, and Crandall was out too early in the season.
Crandall also, yeah.
And I think you mentioned that win over Duke and Maui. That's going to be the gift that keeps on giving for Gonzaga, and if they're on the top line, that's going to be what keeps them there.
So as these matchups get announced here on VSiN, we'll be here until 6 o'clock on the West Coast, 9 o'clock on the East Coast. Once these matchups come out, we will give you our best guess at what the line will be. Kenny White's been doing this for a long, long time. He'll give you the projected number, and then once we start to see these, and I have my board up here, I've got all the casinos in Vegas. You already have the rotation numbers for all the games on Thursday and Friday. Once they pop on the screen, we will let you know the line right here on the Selection Sunday special. So, Kenny, you mentioned that Gonzaga is number 2 in your power ratings. Can you give us maybe the top 5 or top 6 teams as they stand right now heading into Selection Sunday?
Yeah, no problem. I got Duke number 1. I got them a 131.5 rating. Gonzaga number 2, 130.5, just a point behind Duke. My number 3 team is North Carolina. 4 is Virginia. 5 is Michigan State. 6 is Kentucky, 7 is Tennessee.
Don't really have much of an argument there. I was really hoping to see a good game yesterday between Kentucky and Tennessee Youmans, and my God, I mean, I know we had Kentucky in that game, and it sucked to lose that one, but I mean, I would love to see those 2 teams. I want another. I want round 4 between.
I had a headache for about 2 hours after that game because I had Kentucky, and you have an 8-point lead with, 2.5 minutes to go?
2:54.
That's a game you're going to win. What percentage of the time, Kenny?
Yeah, I'm
85, 90.
Yeah, I was going to say 90% of the time. Believe me, when I was up 8, I went back to start going to my apps to see how much I actually bet on them. As soon as I do that, forget it. That's the kiss of death. Turnover 3-pointer, turnover 3. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's Grant Williams too, Bruce, in the corner. Of all the guys, I know he's one of the best players in the SEC, but you'd think you'd be more okay if it's a guard, not the 6'9" power forward hitting a 3.
I thought that score was a misprint. Because it looked the whole way like, Tennessee was going to fall. But apparently they left that effort on the floor yesterday because they didn't have it today, that's for sure.
They were 2 steps slow today.
At least.
Amazing how many balls they fumbled. Auburn's hands and feet were lightning quick compared to what we saw at Tennessee. Tennessee looked like UNLV.
Now, with Michigan's loss today, and again, I had Michigan, so it was a tough one because they had a 13-point lead in that second half.
You got to explain this to me, though. Everybody playing Michigan today. Michigan State won twice without Nick Ward. Both times they didn't have Nick Ward, their second best player on their team. And then Nick Ward plays today? How was Michigan the favorite?
Well, I thought Charles Matthews being in was more important, and then Michigan went small in that second half because Matthews didn't play in the first 2 meetings against Sparty. And the way Beeline went small in this game today, I mean, they were up 13 points.
Yeah, no, they were. Yeah, I know they were
with 10 minutes
to
go. So I thought double revenge, and the market moved because Sparty opened -1, and then it closed Michigan -1.5.
Well, there was 2s out there.
You also had reports that Cassius Winston was limping after yesterday's game. So if Winston was not going to be at full speed today, I mean, that's a big deal for the Spartans.
Yeah.
It turned out he played really well. He shot 5 for 13, had 14 points and 11 assists.
I think the marketplace is reluctant to take a comparable team to beat another comparable team 3 times in a season. Yeah, here's another one. You had Houston-Cincinnati today. I mean, Houston going for the hat trick, and they didn't get it. So it's tough to beat another good team 3 times in a row.
The key to that is...
If I factor that in, you have to. You're right. Yeah, sure. It's worth 2.5, almost 3 points to the betting line.
Yeah.
So you factor that in, and I still factored it in. I still thought Michigan State was the better basketball team.
tough to beat a bad team or a mediocre team 3 times, but it's tough to beat a good team that's well coached. John Beilein, one of the best coaches in the country, I didn't think Michigan State was going to be able to sweep 3 from Michigan. All 3 times Wolverines blew second-half leads. You just don't see that with Beilein teams. Let's face it, who thought Matt McQuaid was going to make 7 threes today for the Spartans?
When you miss it, they were down. I'm sure you were on your way in here. They were up 5. Michigan was up 5, and McQuaid got a defender up in the air, leaned into him, threw up a 3, got fouled, made all 3. Then Michigan came down, bricked a shot. McQuaid got it again, buried another 3, and they never really looked back. The other matchup, we mentioned the 3 for 3 and how tough it is for the hat trick in your conference, the West Coast. I mean, St. Mary's beating Gonzaga in round 3.
I thought that was the most brilliantly executed game plan that I've seen in tournament week or tournament week and a half. They dribbled Gonzaga into submission in that game. They just took them out of their flow with that ball handling and the ball movement. And St. Mary's, they're a legitimate bubble thief. The A-10 is another bubble thief. We will see if Arizona State makes the tournament, then Oregon was a bubble thief last night too. If not, then Oregon just took Arizona State's place in the tournament. But St. Mary's, that shook the field, that's for sure.
So, gentlemen, we have the East bracket. We have the first 4 game between Belmont and Temple. That's an 11 and an 11 in the first 4. And then we have North Dakota State and NC Central. That'll be your 2 play-in games in the East region. Duke is the number 1 overall seed in the East, so the Blue Devils, undoubtedly the number 1 overall seed. And many people will apologize and say that, they didn't have Zion for the full season. So Duke is the 1 in the East. Your 8-9 matchup is alphabet soup, VCU and UCF out of Central Florida. That is the East 8-9.
That's a really good matchup. Just based on my numbers, I got VCU a 2.5-point favorite in that game.